professor of the Ninja Academy. By teaching, I can become stronger. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 1, Will of Fire? Deceiving Will. I didn't expect that after graduating from a normal school, I didn't become a teacher, but traveled through time and space to become a teacher. After sorting out his memories, Lee Muiyu complained in his heart with some helplessness. He felt that he really had a deep connection with the word teacher. In high school, he was considered a good student in the art class. So many classmates would ask him questions, and he was nicknamed Teacher Yu. Then when he applied for college, he slipped all the way to a normal university. Under the advice of his family, he chose the school's relatively strong normal major. Then, when he tutored his roommate in college, he was nicknamed Teacher Yu again. To everyone's surprise, when he graduated, Lee Muiyu rebelled and passed the civil service exam directly instead of becoming a teacher. What he never expected was that on his first day at work, he just walked into the office door, and the next moment he traveled through time and became a new teacher who just walked into the office of the ninja school. The name of his current body is Hanyu Muiyu. His first name is still the same, Muiyu, but his last name is different. Alas, this is not a safe world. There are too many psychopaths and paranoid perverts, and they are very strong. Muiyu sighed in his heart. He casually observed the office, which was not much different from the office in his previous life, but the sharp kunai placed casually on the desk told him that this was no longer the peaceful country in his previous life. What made Muiyu feel even more fucked up was that he was not only a teacher, but also a ninja of the root. The original body was an orphan raised by the root since childhood. The reason why he became a teacher in the ninja school was because of Danzo's order, asking him to observe and record the students of the ninja school and pay attention to whether there were geniuses. It's not a good place to be under the hands of the pot shadow. Just when Muiyu was thinking about how to survive in this dangerous world, an emotionless mechanical sound suddenly sounded in his mind, and a transparent blue panel suddenly appeared in front of him. Teacher system started. Congratulations, you have successfully become a teacher. You can get rewards for giving lectures to students. The better the students, the higher the rewards. You can take in outstanding students as apprentices for one-on-one teaching, and teachers can get rewards if the apprentice's strength increases. P.S. Both parties must agree to take in apprentices, and you cannot take in apprentices unilaterally. Muiyu studied the blue panel. Now there are only two options on it. One is the personal template and the other is the master and apprentice. Muiyu clicked on the personal panel. Name, Hanyu Muiyu. Age, 18. Chakra, 4300. Skills, 3 body technique, fire style, great fireball technique, fire style, phoenix fire technique, instant body technique, Konoha flow technique. Evaluation, the elite among the Chunin, a cannon fodder with a slightly greater role in war. After reading the somewhat heartbreaking evaluation, Muiyu silently closed the personal panel and clicked on the Master Disciple option. It was probably because there was no disciple yet, so it was blank. Waiting for the bell to ring, Muiyu remembered that she had a class in the first period, so she packed up and walked towards the classroom. Although she was a new teacher, since there were not many teachers in the ninja school now, Muiyu also became the head teacher and led the freshman class. Muiyu looked at the class list and saw several familiar faces. There were Mitarashi Yanko and Gangsai Tetsugami Izumo, 2 future Konoha gate gods. When she saw Uchiha Shisui's name, Muiyu's eyes lit up. This person was an extraordinary genius. Since teachers can get rewards if their disciples improve their abilities, the more talented the disciples are, the better. Muiyu adjusted her expression before entering the classroom, and walked into the classroom with a smile as warm as the sun. The design of the classrooms in the ninja school is somewhat special, perhaps to facilitate the students in the back row to see clearly. The height of the students' seats is higher and higher, increasing upwards. Muiyu's arrival made the originally noisy classroom fall into silence. After all, they are all 5 or 6-year-old children, and it is their first time to go to school. Most people are curious and in awe of the existence of ninja teachers. Of course, there are some exceptions, such as a purple-haired little girl with a single ponytail sitting in the first row. After Miyu came in, she said directly and carelessly, "Big brother, you are so beautiful. Are you our teacher?" Miyu smiled and nodded and replied, "Yes, this beautiful little classmate. I will be your future homeroom teacher." Hehe. The purple-haired little girl who was praised for her good looks immediately felt that this blonde male teacher was a good person. The other students felt relieved when they saw the interaction between the two. Although it was their first time to go to school, they had heard some relatives who went to school complain about the teacher being fierce. Miyu quickly walked to the podium and wrote her full name with chalk, then turned around and formally introduced herself. "My name is Hanyu Miyu. From today on, I will be your teacher. Please give me more guidance in the future." "Okay, teacher. My name is Mitarashi Anko." The purple-haired little girl responded first, with Anko taking the lead. Others also responded to Miyu, and Shisui followed suit. Miyu felt a little disappointed in the silent system. He thought he could accept Shisui as his apprentice in this way. After all, it was considered as acknowledging the teacher, but it failed due to a bug. Miyu did not show his inner emotions on his face. After everyone had introduced themselves, he pressed his hand and signaled everyone to be quiet. "Before the lecture, let me ask you a question. Do you know how Konoha came about?" The classroom suddenly became silent again. Everyone looked at each other, not knowing how to answer. Although Shisui, who has been educated by the clan, knows a little, he is not a pushover and will not answer unless he is called out. "It was built by people." Hongdu thought for a while and answered. "It was indeed built by people. But what you need to know is who built Konoha and why Konoha was established." Miyu did not deny Hongdu's words and continued to talk about what Hongdu said. Before the era of the ninja village, there was the Warring States period with constant wars. In that period, even children as old as you might have to take up arms and fight, and tragic wars could break out at any time. Speaking of this cruel history, Miyu's voice became low, and he directly put the cruel reality of the Warring States period in front of the students. Maybe the children in the ninja world are more precocious, or maybe because this is Konoha, many children feel the heaviness of it, and the atmosphere of the classroom has changed. At this time, two families stood up. One is the Senju clan, and the other is the Uchiha clan. Miyu's tone changed slightly, from low to passionate. I know. The first Hokage, Hashirama, was named Senju." When Miyu mentioned Senju, the students immediately felt involved. They didn't know about the Warring States period, but they knew about Senju. When Shisui heard that everyone was paying attention to Senju and no one was paying attention to Uchiha, he was a little disappointed. He didn't understand why, since they were all the founding ninja clans of Konoha. In order to protect the younger generation of the family and so that the children would no longer have to fight with weapons, the two clans worked together to create Konoha and attracted more ninja clans to join, and finally ended the Warring States period, which led to the Konoha we have now. Read the error-free version at 69 book bar. 6=9 plus book bar released this novel for the first time. Where the leaves of Konoha fly, the fire will also continue. The flames will continue to illuminate the village and let the new leaves sprout. It is the struggle of our ancestors who are not afraid of sacrifice that has made us what we are today in the current ninja school. This spirit of selfless dedication is also the will of fire of our Konoha. After saying this, Miyu's expression was a little serious, as if he was still remembering his ancestors. He thought that Shisui would be interested in a teacher who was familiar with history and understood the will of fire. So that's how Konoha came about. I must pay my respects next time I pass by the Hokage Rock. I want to become a will of fire ninja in the future and protect Konoha. The students below had already imagined how their predecessors fought bloody battles to build their kingdom for them. They were all excited and said they wanted to learn from their predecessors. Shisui's eyes lit up, and he felt that this teacher seemed a little special. He began to have more interest in the life of the ninja school. Originally, he heard from his elders that the clan that taught in the ninja school had already taught it a long time ago, and he was planning to graduate early to help the police department. Now it seems that this is not entirely true. So do you know how many chakra attributes there are? 5. water, earth, wind, thunder, and fire. The student from a ninja family answered quickly, not entirely right. There are 7 chakra attributes. In addition to the 5 basic attribute changes of water, earth, wind, thunder, and fire, there are also 2 special attribute changes of yin and yang. Muyu corrected with a smile. This kind of questioning and then correcting can leave a deeper memory for students. Then Muyu began to talk about the basic knowledge of chakra, and would occasionally tell a joke to amuse the students. Time passed quickly, and 4 classes passed in a flash. When the bell rang, Muyu stopped and said with a smile, "School is over. Tomorrow we will talk about refining chakra." Muyu announced the end of get out of class very directly and gave a preview of the next class. When the students heard Muyu say that school was over, they were stunned for a moment, thinking that they had just started class. How could it be over? After careful recollection, it seemed that they had been over and started 4 times. It was just because of Muyu's guidance that they were serious and relaxed in class, so they didn't notice the passage of time. Refining chakra. I'm looking forward to it. Hongdu couldn't wait to fast forward to tomorrow when she heard Muyu's words. None of her family members were ninjas, so they had not been exposed to this kind of knowledge in advance. Isn't this class very interesting? My cousin actually lied to me that school was hard to endure, and I told my aunt about him stealing money to buy snacks when I went back. Gangziti looked indignant as if he was almost deceived. Then wouldn't it be better if you just use this to threaten your cousin to give you the snacks? Shanu Chuyun next to him expressed his opinion. Gangziti instantly showed an expression of sudden enlightenment and patted Shanu Chuyun's shoulder, praising, "Brother, good idea. If it succeeds, I'll give you half of the snacks." Shisui looked at Muyu, who was about to leave the classroom, thought about it, stood up and followed. The lecture is completed, and the settlement is made. Evaluation. A. Telling stories of predecessors to stimulate students' sense of responsibility and enthusiasm. The content of the lecture is coherent and interactive, and the students are highly satisfied. Reward settlement. Please read it again. Whether you can make a living by reading novels depends on this one. Chapter 2. The advantages of the orphan opening. Get reward. Perception ninjutsu. Complete the tutorial for the first time and get reward. Identification technique. Complete the tutorial with a rating for the first time and get reward. Master the nature change of fire attribute chakra. Muyu was a little surprised to get 3 rewards at once. He felt that there were suddenly many more memories in his mind, and the most of them were the memories of practicing the nature change of fire attribute chakra. The memory was so real that Muyu had the illusion that he was an old ninja who specialized in fire escape for a lifetime. Teacher Hanyu, can I ask you a question? Shisui asked respectfully. Hearing Shisui's words, Muyu, who was about to take another look at the evaluation on the panel, stopped and took Shisui to the back of the empty teaching building. He then used the perception ninjutsu to sense it, and found that there was no particularly strong chakra aura. Muyu was relieved and smiled. Is it that you didn't understand the content of the class? Tell me. Shisui shook his head and said, it's not the content of the lecture, but I have a doubt. Teacher, you know that the Senju clan and the Uchiha clan jointly founded Konoha, but why do people only remember the Senju clan and rarely talk about the contributions of the Uchiha clan? Although he was a child, Shisui was particularly mature and sensitive. When he went out with his elders, he could detect the strange eyes of pedestrians on the street when they saw the clan emblems behind them. They were obviously all heroes who built the village. Why was the Uchiha clan not only not mentioned for their contributions, but even seemed to be hated by the villagers? Shisui didn't quite understand. Looking at Shisui with a puzzled look on his face, Muyu secretly complained in his heart. What is the reputation of Senju Hashirama in Konoha, and what is the reputation of Uchiha Madara in Konoha? Can they be compared? You should have only read some of the history of the clan, Muyu asked. Shisui nodded. The only history he could get in touch with now was the history given by the Uchiha clan. There are many things that happened to make it like this, and it's hard to explain it in a short time. Muyu showed a trace of embarrassment. Seeing Muyu's embarrassment, Shisui felt guilty, as if this problem was more complicated than he thought. He wanted to forget it, but Muyu spoke again. Forget it. If you have time after school, Come to me and I'll tell you about the history. Miyu sighed. After all, I should be considered to owe you a favor to the Uchiha clan, so just repay the favor. Shisui was a little confused. Why would Miyu owe them a favor? So he asked directly. My parents were surrounded by the enemy in a war and were rescued by a ninja named Uchiha Jing. Although they died in the war later, I always remember this life-saving favor, Miyu said with a grateful face. He was glad that his original body had become an orphan long ago. Otherwise there would be much less room for development. I have to admit that sometimes the dead are more useful than the living. Shisui's eyes widened, with an incredible expression on his face. Uchiha Kagami was his grandfather. He didn't expect that he and Miyu had such a connection. He had a very strange feeling. However, Shisui was not the kind of person who would repay a favor, so he did not make it public, but just thanked Miyu. Before Shisui left, Miyu gave Shisui an appraisal. Name: Uchiha Shisui, Chakra, 500, Potential, SS, Evaluation, 6 Paths Bloodline, suitable for practicing fire escape and illusion, great potential, recommended to be accepted as a disciple. Miyu walked to the office while sighing that he was worthy of being a fierce man who could open Susanoo with one eye. The 2 golden S's were so dazzling that even the system recommended accepting a disciple. Miyu opened his own panel again to check if the evaluation had changed. Name: Hanyu Muiu, age: 18, Chakra, 4300, Evaluation: mastered the nature change of fire attribute Chakra. Your strength is limited by your scarce chakra. If you can make up for this shortcoming, you can be called an elite among the Jonins. It seems that the mastery of the nature change of fire attribute is even stronger than I thought. Muiu felt that he might have underestimated the value of the 2 words mastery. I thought it might just be equivalent to the knowledge of nature change of a Jonin. Now, in terms of fire attribute chakra nature change, he might have reached the level of the 3rd generation. After all, he is a person who only knows the 3 body techniques and some ordinary physical techniques besides 2 fire escape techniques. With this level, after receiving the reward and increasing his chakra, he can reach the level of an elite Jonin. Elite Jonin must be at the level of Kakashi and Asuma at the beginning of the plot. Muiu was originally very happy about the great increase in strength, but when he thought of his identity as a root, Muiu was no longer happy. First, he has the curse mark of the root on his body, which makes him feel insecure. Second, Danzo likes to send his men to die, which makes him feel even more insecure. I have to recruit some disciples quickly and improve my strength as soon as possible. Even if I can't kill Danzo and leave gracefully, I have to be able to protect myself. Miyu set a short-term goal for herself. Miyu walked into the office and found 3 teachers sitting in the office, 2 men and 1 woman, complaining about their students. Miyu knew them all because the teacher came in advance and the original body had been to the school before and met some colleagues. Miyu gave each of them an appraisal. Name: Ikigami Yu, Chakra, 2000, Potential, C, Evaluation, a Chunin Cannon Fodder. Read the error-free version at 69 book bar. 6 = 9 plus book bar first published this novel. The data of the 3 teachers are similar, and they were all identified as cannon fodder by the system. Oh, I'm really unlucky. How did the grade 4-2 class fall into my hands? I was originally teaching a student from grade 3-1. How can I teach this? Might Guy and Uchiha Obito are both in grade 4-2. Iketani Young spread his hands helplessly. My family also arranged a blind date for me and asked me to meet them tomorrow afternoon. There happens to be a class for grade 4-2 that afternoon. Find a teacher who doesn't have classes to help, or just ask for leave. Blind dates are more important, Weda Aya suggested. At this time, Weda Aya noticed Miyu coming in and greeted him with a smile. Teacher Hanyu, how do you feel about your first class? Are the little tricks I taught you before useful? Miyu recalled that the enthusiastic female teacher was worried that he would be nervous for the first time as a new teacher, so he kept thinking about radishes and cabbages in his mind when he was teaching. Miyu politely replied, "Thank you, the little tricks are very useful, but after class, the students advised me not to be picky." Haha, Teacher Hanyu, you are really interesting. Weda Ai smiled and thought that Miyu was still in the mood to joke and must have spent the first time comfortably. Teacher Ikutani, I don't have classes tomorrow afternoon. If you need me, I can take your place. Miyu put the lesson plan on the desk and asked with a good-natured look. Unlike other teachers, Miyu wished she had full classes every day. Besides, there were Obito and Might Guy in class 2 of grade 4, so she had to go and see them. Ikutani Yang showed a happy expression on his face, thanked him quickly, and said that he would definitely treat Miyu to a meal if he had the chance. In the Hokage's office, the third Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen looked at Miyu, who was talking about the will of fire in the crystal ball with a serious face, touched his goatee, and felt that this young man of the root was not bad, and was someone who understood the will of fire. Danzo thought he had hidden it well, but in fact, some of the ninjas who were cultivated by the root but did not enter the root list had already been known by the third Hokage. It's just that the third Hokage felt that Danzo was also cultivating strength for Konoha to some extent, and it would be fine if it wasn't too excessive. However, the third generation still attaches great importance to the ninja school, so he specially went to see it in person. Unexpectedly, the first lesson of this root ninja was about the will of fire, which established a sense of responsibility for students. This made the third generation feel very good. Let's see how he performs next. If he is considered a talent, let him leave the root. Miyu's current performance alone is not enough for the third generation to ask Danzo for someone. Although Danzo's is essentially his, he still has to take care of his old classmates' feelings. Thinking of this, the third generation stopped the telescope technique and began to process documents, preparing to come to inspect Konoha in the evening. After finishing his meal, Shisui began to look for Miyu's residence according to the location given by Miyu. Miyu's residence is in the southeast of Konoha, where the buildings are relatively sparse. It is considered a remote area of Konoha and is far away from the main city. Thanks to the fact that there are relatively few buildings here, Shisui quickly found Miyu's home, a single-story wooden house located in a simple courtyard. As soon as Shisui entered the courtyard, he saw a scene that made him dumbfounded and shocked. Chapter 3 Teacher Miyu is a good person. After returning home, Miyu went to the bathroom and stuck out his tongue in front of the mirror. As Miyu expected, there was a black curse mark on his tongue, which was the seal of extermination of tongue disasters that every root member must have. If Miyu remembered correctly, the effect of this curse mark was that as long as he said something related to a specific matter, his whole body would be paralyzed and unable to move. The curse mark set by Danzo was naturally related to the information about him and the root, so that even if the members of the organization were captured or betrayed, they would not be able to leak the information about the root. If that was all, it would be fine, and he did not intend to leak the information about the root to anyone. But Miyu was worried that this curse mark could be actively controlled by Danzo, which would be equivalent to a fatal weakness being controlled. Miyu thought carefully and tried to find a way to crack the seal of extermination of tongue disasters from the original book. It seems that there is no other good way except Danzo's death. But after thinking about it, Miyu found that no one in the original book cracked this curse mark. The people who wanted to leave the root by the third generation might be ordered to be lifted by the third generation. For others, it could only be that Danzo died and the curse mark would automatically become invalid. But Danzo is not the squishy ad in MOBA games. He will die suddenly even if he is not taken care of in a group fight. Danzo, this old scoundrel, cherishes his life very much. He usually stays in the root base and does not go out. He may also have resurrection coins on him. He is really difficult to deal with. Miyu thought about her current strength and temporarily gave up the idea of killing Danzo. I can only go to Orochimaru or study it myself. Miyu found that she had only two choices at this moment. In fact, it can only be regarded as one choice, because Orochimaru's line is not available for the time being. Miyu looked at the time and felt that it was about time. So she activated the perception ninjutsu and sensed Shisui approaching. Miyu walked out of the door and walked into the courtyard. He thought that Danzo still trusted the original owner. He activated the perception ninjutsu many times, but did not sense that there were any root ninjas monitoring him. When he felt that Shisui was about to come in, Muyu quickly formed a seal and burst out chakra with all his strength, instantly creating a huge fireball 8 meters high, which directly turned the training wooden man in the courtyard into ashes, and also turned a large area of the ground into a scorched land. Shisui, who had just walked into the courtyard, happened to see this shocking scene and was shocked by Muyu's attainments in fire escape. Although the Great Fireball is only a sea-level fire escape ninjutsu, the level of ninjutsu is determined only by the difficulty of ninjutsu training. Many Uchiha Jonins like to use the Great Fireball, but Shisui is very sure that even if the Jonins of his own family use the Great Fireball, they will definitely not have such power, because they cannot transform a large amount of chakra into flames in such a short time. Teacher Hanyu, I'm sorry to disturb your practice. Shisui came to his senses and apologized quickly. It's okay, I just finished it. Muyu took a long breath and smiled and invited Shisui into the room. In fact, the fact that Uchiha has become what it is now has a lot to do with your former Uchiha clan leader Uchiha Madara. Muyu poured 2 glasses of water, handed one to Shisui, and took one in her own hand, and began to tell the story of Uchiha. You should know that Uchiha Madara rebelled, right? Shisui nodded. The clan history says that the clan leader left Konoha. If it was really just leaving, it wouldn't be like this. Muyu told Shisui that if Hashirama hadn't been so powerful, Konoha might have been destroyed by Uchiha Madara. Shisui fell into silence, but Muyu told Shisui that things were far from over. This incident caused the second-generation Hokage Senjutsu Bairama, who didn't like Uchiha, to be more afraid of Uchiha, so after becoming Hokage, he formulated a number of policies specifically for governing Uchiha. These policies aroused the dissatisfaction of the Uchiha Hawks, and they had the idea of seizing power by force. In the end, they were discovered by the Anbu and imprisoned. This series of events eventually led to the negative reputation of Uchiha gradually covering up their past merits, and they were disliked by the people in the village. So many things happened. Shisui found that he thought things were too simple. In fact, there are also Uchiha who try to change this situation, such as Uchiha Kagami, who is the most successful one. Muyu led the topic to Uchiha Kagami. Then Mr. Hanyu, what kind of person do you think Uchiha Kagami is? Shisui suddenly became curious about what image his grandfather had in Muyu's eyes. He had never seen his grandfather in person, but he had heard a lot from other clan members about him, such as being powerful and a genius ninja. An Uchiha with the will of fire. He turned himself into a bridge to connect Uchiha and Konoha and ease the conflict between the two sides. Muyu thought for a while and said, although there were no boastful words in Muyu's words, Shisui thought it was the best and most appropriate evaluation he had heard so far. I also want to be an Uchiha like my grandfather. Shisui's eyes were firm, but he didn't realize that he called him grandfather directly. Grandfather? Muyu looked at Shisui with some doubts. Shisui realized his mistake. He just didn't want to repay a favor, and he didn't have a guilty conscience, so he admitted it directly. Mr. Hanyu, you don't have to care too much about the so-called favor. If you have time, go to my grandfather's grave to pay tribute. I think he should be very happy. Shisui said, how can I not repay the kindness of saving my father and mother? How about this, Shisui? Are you willing to become my disciple? Muyu asked. Shisui understood what Muyu meant, and he felt that this was too much of a disadvantage for Muyu. But he didn't want to see Muyu, a kind person who knew how to repay kindness, in trouble. In addition, Shisui felt that it was indeed good to be a disciple of a teacher as knowledgeable and powerful as Muyu. Finally, Shisui nodded and shouted, Teacher Muyu, do you want to establish a master-disciple relationship with Uchiha Shisui? The system pop-up window came out immediately, and Muyu chose yes without hesitation. This was the genius disciple he had fooled with great difficulty. The relationship was established successfully. The current trust level is 2. Unlocking disciple cultivation returns to the master in teaching and returning to the disciple. Muyu took a look at the introduction and was instantly surprised. Disciple cultivation returns to the master means that if his disciples become stronger in cultivation, he will also become stronger. The higher the trust, the more feedback. Trust level 2 is double return. If Shisui increases 1 point of chakra, he can add 2 points. If he gives Shisui something, The system will randomly give him a reward. The higher the trust level, the better the reward. It is limited to once a day. Read the error-free version at 69 book bar 6 equals 9 plus book underscore bar released this novel. Muyu thought about it and took out a booklet and handed it to Shisui. It contained the Fire Attribute Chakra Nature Change Training Manual he wrote in the afternoon. He originally planned to find a suitable time to give it to Shisui to brush up his favor. Now he wants to try the function of giving a reward to a disciple. This is the Fire Attribute Chakra Nature Change Training Manual I summarized myself. You can take it back and read it. I will check your practice results regularly. As a teacher, I am very strict and will not relax the requirements because of a favor, Muyu said seriously. Shisui became stronger, but he could double his strength. Muyu felt that he had to supervise Shisui's practice. Thank you, Teacher Muyu. I will practice seriously. Shisui took the booklet from Muyu and thanked him seriously. Shisui didn't think there was anything wrong with Muyu's strict requirements. Instead, it proved that Muyu really treated him as a disciple, not just as a way to repay his grandfather's kindness. You gave the disciple the Nature Change Training Manual. Since the disciple was very grateful for the reward of critical hit, he obtained the ninjutsu fire style, Great Dragon Fire style, experienced level. The moment Muyu received the reward, a large section of his memory of practicing the Great Dragon Fire style appeared in his mind, as if he had practiced this ninjutsu thousands of times. The Great Dragon Fire style is a B-level fire style ninjutsu. Compared with the Great Fireball, the Great Dragon Fire does not focus on the range, but is more focused on flexibility. It can freely control the fire dragon to attack the enemy. After mastering it, the seal can be simplified into one, and multiple fire dragons can be released at the same time. Since the system directly gave him the skilled level, Muyu now only needs to make one seal to instantly release 3 fire dragons. The way Muyu looked at Shisui was no longer looking at him. It was an inexhaustible gold mine, the kind that could explode gold coins every day. Muyu noticed that it was getting dark outside, so she said, "It's getting late. I'll take you home. Don't let your family worry." "Thank you, teacher. I can walk back slowly by myself. I'm alone at home now." Shisui waved his hand and said, he felt that he had troubled Muyu a lot today and didn't want to waste Muyu's time anymore. Hearing Shisui's words, Muyu remembered that Shisui's parents seemed to have never appeared. They must have died not long after Shisui was born. He realized that it was amazing that the master and apprentice couldn't even find a parent. "But my uncle will come to take care of me from time to time," Shisui explained for fear that Muyu would worry. Muyu nodded and didn't force him to go home. Today was just the first day he met Shisui, and there would be many opportunities to improve his impression in the future. On the way home, Shisui flipped through the training booklet that Muyu gave him, and then recalled the fire escape ninjutsu he saw when he entered the yard, and he became more curious about Muyu. As a famous prodigy in the clan, and with his grandfather being Uchiha Kagami, Shisui has come into contact with many Uchiha masters, and his vision far exceeds that of other people of the same age. He felt that Muyu should not be a chunin with his strength, and it was strange for him to be a teacher in a ninja school. Ninja schools do not need such strong teachers, and the only ninjutsu they teach is the 3-body technique. Muyu watched Shisui gradually go away, and he became more and more looking forward to tomorrow. He has classes in the morning and afternoon tomorrow, and he wonders what rewards he can get. In the afternoon, there are classes for Might Guy and Obito's class, so what level of potential do the two of them have? Chapter 4, Might Guy and Obito's potential. "Brother, how is the situation?" "Not good. My hateful cousin actually threatened me that if I tell him about his affairs, he will tell the neighbor Miui about my bedwetting when I was 3 years old." Gangzidi gnashed his teeth and denounced his cousin's evil deeds. How could their affairs involve the neighbor's little Miui and destroy his glorious image? "It's really hateful. I have a plan. Take advantage of your young age and use playing as an excuse to go to your cousin's house and mess up your cousin's room. Although it is you who messed it up, if it is not cleaned up in time, your cousin will definitely be the one who suffers in the end. If this happens a few times, how dare he be arrogant?" Shinryu Izumo thought about it and came up with another clever plan. Gangzidi's eyes lit up immediately. saying that with the advice of Brother Izumo, he would be as invincible as the first-generation Hokage with the advice of Tobirama. If he succeeds, he will definitely treat him to snacks. As soon as Miyu walked into the classroom, she heard the conversation between the two of them and couldn't help but smile. Let's start the class. Miyu walked to the podium and started the class directly. Chakra is the prerequisite for us to launch ninjutsu. It is produced by the combination of physical energy and mental ability. Most of the students in the audience listen very seriously. After all, this is the most important foundation. While explaining, Miyu occasionally released chakra personally for everyone to feel. In the process of explaining, she also tried to insert jokes and small stories to make the class not boring, and asked questions to deepen memory. Soon the 4 classes were about to end. When the class was about to end, Miyu looked at Hongdu, who was smiling and asking questions constantly, and gave her an assessment. Name: Mitarashi Hongdu. Potential: A. Miyu thought about it and gave all the students in the classroom an assessment. Name: Gangzidi. Potential: B. Name: Shinryu Izumo. Potential: B. Miyu was surprised to find that, except for Shisui, there were only 4 students in the whole classroom who reached B or above. In addition to Hongdu and the other 3, there was only 1 student who he didn't remember much and was also B, and the others were all C. Some were C+, some were C, and some were even D. From this point of view, Shisui's talent is too strong, and he directly leaves everyone else behind. Hongdu's potential is also a bit beyond Miyu's expectations. He remembers that Hongdu's original work is not very strong, but the potential identified is several levels higher than the 2 gate gods. However, Miyu has no idea of accepting Hongdu as his apprentice for the time being. He cannot accept unlimited apprentices. There are only 4 apprentice quotas at present, one of which is occupied by Shisui, leaving only 3. Although Lilai Hongdu is very cute, Miyu said that he is also handsome. What's the use? Will Danzo let him go? Obviously not. The lecture is completed and the settlement is made. Evaluation: A. Reward: multiple shadow clone technique. This ninjutsu is not bad, but it's a pity that it doesn't work for me now, Miyu thought to himself. As a ninjutsu used by the protagonist Naruto from beginning to end, multiple shadow clone is naturally a very practical ninjutsu. If you have enough chakra, it is very useful in both combat and training, but what Miyu lacks now is chakra, so there is nothing he can do. After lunch, I walked into the office. Several teachers were giving advice to Ikutani Young, who was about to go on a blind date. A tall and thin male teacher reminded him, before meeting, you must dress up and dress formally. Don't let people think you are a sloppy person. Sujinto, you underestimate me. Although I have never been in a relationship, this is common sense. Ikutani Young replied confidently. I think the most important thing you should pay attention to is not to brag like this when chatting. Weta Ai seemed to have foreseen the final outcome and shook her head. Weta, just wait and see. Ikutani Young saw that Weta Ai actually underestimated him, and immediately made a harsh remark. Yeah, I'll wait and see. Weta Ai responded perfunctorily, and immediately talked to Miyu after noticing that Miyu came in. Teacher Hanyu, you are amazing. I passed by your class today and took a look. I felt that the atmosphere was very good. I can't believe that this is your first time as a teacher. Miyu shook her head and said modestly, no, it's all because of your experience and the obedient students. Although she knew that this was a humble remark, who doesn't like to be praised? Ayaweta smiled and shared some of her snacks with Miyu. Seeing this, Ikami Young instantly felt what it meant to be treated differently. He and Ayaweta had been colleagues for 2 years and had never eaten her snacks many times. After complaining about Ayaweta in his heart, Ikami Young also quickly greeted Miyu. If this time is successful, he will remember Miyu's kindness as a substitute teacher for the rest of his life. Miyu responded to everyone with a smile. After chatting for a few words, he picked up the pen and ink he had prepared in advance and began to practice calligraphy. Practicing calligraphy in his spare time was one of the few good habits in his previous life, which he developed after taking calligraphy classes in college. The lunchtime at the ninja school is relatively short, and there is no time to find a place to practice. When he felt that the class was about to start, Miyu packed up and went to the classroom to prepare for the class. Ding-ling-ling when the bell rang. Miyu just happened to walk into the classroom of Class 2, Grade 4. Read the error-free version at 69 book bar. 6 equals 9 plus book underscore bar released this novel for the first time. Hey, isn't Mr. Igaya's Konoha history class this afternoon? A student asked when he saw that it was not Igaya Young who walked in. Mr. Igaya has something to do this afternoon, so I will take the class this afternoon. Miyu walked to the podium and explained. As soon as Miyu finished speaking, a hurried figure rushed into the classroom. Teacher, I'm sorry, I met an old lady on the way and helped her, so I'm late. Obito put his hands on his knees and panted heavily to explain. Sit down and listen to the class. Miyu nodded and said, then glanced at the students and identified them all. Name, Nohara Rin, Chakra, 300, Potential. A. Name, Might Guy, Chakra, 600, Potential. S. Evaluation, suitable for practicing taijutsu, recommended to accept apprentice. Name, Uchiha Obito, Chakra, 650, Potential. S. Evaluation, 6 paths bloodline, sometimes spatial talent, recommended to accept apprentice. Class 2 of the 4th grade is similar to his Class 1 of the 1st grade, except for these 3 familiar people. Only one Uchiha Chiuo has A-level potential, and the others are basically C-level and D-level. After looking at their talents, Miyu asked about their progress in class and began to teach. 4 students who are used to teachers who read from the textbook, teachers like Miyu gave them an unexpected surprise. Obito said directly, Mr. Miyu, you are so good at teaching, much better than other teachers. If you are the one teaching in the future, I will definitely pass. I will tell Mr. Ikutani about your lateness, Miyu said with a smile. He is different from other teachers in the ninja school. He has systematically learned how to be a teacher. Obito immediately looked bitter and begged for mercy. Miyu was their class teacher. Obito's actions added a bit of joy to the class. During the break, Miyu activated the perception ninjutsu and called Might Guy and Obito out after confirming that there was no problem. There is another chapter in the evening, but the time is not yet determined. You can read it tomorrow. Chapter 5 Exam Tips. Teacher Hanyu, please, don't tell Teacher Ikugaya. Obito continued to beg Miyu without giving up. That depends on your performance, Miyu said with a smile, but did not give a specific answer. Teacher, is there something wrong? Might Guy scratched his head and didn't understand why he was called out. He didn't make any mistakes. Miyu looked at Might Guy. This man who almost kicked out the finale and was called the strongest in physical skills by Madara was still very immature, although he had put on the iconic green tights, not to mention his strength. His belief was still far behind, although Might Guy at this time also believed that he would definitely become a physical skills master through day-to-day training. He did not fully understand what his father said about youth and self-discipline. He still needed to grow up, and Miyu was happy to help him during this period. Your theoretical results are very troublesome to Teacher Igaya, Miyu said. Hearing Miyu's words, even Obito, who was more open-minded, lowered his head in embarrassment. It's not that I don't want to learn, but the questions are too difficult to understand. Why do you have to lock up those animals together to count how many there are? Obito tried to quibble. Seeing Obito like this, Miyu recalled the time when he studied mathematics in high school. He could only say that fortunately his major did not require advanced mathematics. However, Miyu knew that it was actually Obito's problem, because the mathematics taught in the ninja school was the simplest one, and there were relatively few courses, not even as many as history. But you are not only bad at mathematics, you are also not good at history and ninjutsu theory. Miyu shook his head and said, what's the use of knowing all that history? Isn't it all in the past? Obito thought that the history class should be cancelled. Mathematics might still be useful when buying vegetables, so what's the use of history? I think so too. Might Guy nodded as if he really couldn't memorize all that history. You have to talk to the 3rd generation about this. He is the principal of the ninja school. Miyu said that what he said did not count in this regard. But it's not a good idea for you to go on like this. It's not good for either Mr. Igaya or you. Do you have any secrets for exams, Mr. Hanyu? Obito looked at Miyu with anticipation, Might Guy also looked at Muyu excitedly. If he didn't really know how to do it, who would want to be the last one? It is indeed the secret of the exam. That is to practice questions while reading. Muyu said his secret. With the intensity of the exams in the ninja school, he only needs to use a little of his experience in taking exams in his previous life to pass easily. Because the ninja school exams require half of the class average score to pass. Practice questions? The two looked confused and didn't quite understand. You can treat this as special training for the exams, and if you pass the exams, I will give you a reward, Muyu said with a smile. What reward? A dango? Obito asked curiously. I can teach you ninjutsu or taijutsu. In short, I can guide you in your practice, Muyu replied. Really? The two widened their eyes, unable to believe that such a good thing would fall from the sky. The premise is that you can pass the exam in a month, Muyu reminded. Is this youth? I'm excited. Might Guy was a little excited. I'll definitely pass this time, Obito made a promise. Looking at the two people who had been mobilized, Muyu nodded secretly in his heart. High-level hunters often appear as prey. The two of them felt that they had made a lot of money. They got the secret to pass the exam and were rewarded with training guidance. And Muyu only needed to become their teacher in the special training process to make a lot of money. Even if the two of them still failed in the end, it would be okay. Muyu could say that seeing how hard you work, it would be a shame not to give you a reward, and maybe you could even get another wave of goodwill. The reason why he didn't fool them into accepting him as a disciple like he did with Shisui was that the background was not suitable, and it was not easy to talk about repaying a favor. And secondly, Muyu would only come to teach once and could not maintain contact for a long time. If he was the class teacher, it would be easier to operate. After finalizing the special training with the two, Muyu took them back to class. Obito, what did Mr. Hanyu ask you to do? Didn't he punish you? Nohara-rin asked worriedly. How could it be a punishment? Mr. Hanyu is so nice. He taught me the secrets of the exam. Obito immediately vindicated Muyu. As long as Muyu can help him get rid of the title of the last one, Obito can become the first moon blower in the ninja school. Rin, you should also listen to the class carefully. Don't let me surpass you in the next exam. Obito laughed. It would be great if you can really surpass me. Nohara-rin looked at the boastful Obito and showed a helpless smile. Although she couldn't get the first place, she was also ranked in the top. After the bell rang, Obito showed an unprecedented serious attitude. This time he must pass the exam. He has already started to study what ninjutsu to learn. Nohara-rin was a little surprised to see this scene, thinking that Obito was serious this time. 3 minutes later, looking at Obito lying on the table, Nohara-rin could only say that Obito was still the Obito she was familiar with. Read the error-free version at 69 book bar. 6 = 9 plus book _ bar is the first to publish this novel. At this time, a piece of chalk drew a beautiful parabola and hit Obito's head. Obito looked around blankly, saw Muyu's face, saw Nohara-rin's face, saw Might Guy who was writing furiously, thought of what he said 3 minutes ago, couldn't help but blushed, and lost his sleepiness. After the episode of Obito sleeping, the rest of the class was completed smoothly. Lecture completed. Evaluation. A. Award. Konoha Cyclone. This time the reward is not a ninjutsu but a taijutsu, and it is developed by the future Might Guy. This taijutsu looks simple, just a kick, but Muyu, who has already learned it, found that it is not as simple as imagined. The kicking posture, muscle burst, and chakra burst all require skills. Muyu was worried that he would have nothing to teach Guy, so he was very satisfied with this reward. After school, Muyu wandered in the forest south of Konoha, looking for a suitable place to practice. After all, he still has the identity of a root, and Danzo must know the location of his home. Considering how much Danzo hated Uchiha, he knew that Muyu taught Shisui ninjutsu without reporting it, so he suspected that Muyu had betrayed him. Although he had the perception ninjutsu, he couldn't keep it on all the time, and the chakra wouldn't support it. So Muyu planned to take Shisui to practice outside in the future. Finally, Muyu found a good environment by a small river, which was also remote and suitable for practice. Muyu wrote down the place and went home. It turned out that Muyu's caution was not in vain. After he entered the yard, he found a ninja wearing an animal mask standing in the yard. Chapter 6. Sick Danzo. Yi? This is the latest instruction from Danzo-sama. The root ninja handed Muyu a scroll. Muyu nodded and took the scroll. Yi was his code name in the root. The two did not communicate much. After the root ninja handed the scroll to Muyu, he quickly left. Muyu was a hidden chess piece of the root. It would be bad if he was discovered by the Anbu if he had too much contact. Before the root ninja left, Muyu gave an appraisal. Name, Hiramizuhiro. Potential, B. Chakra, 7000. Evaluation, a capable jonin. Looking at the chakra of 7000, Muyu couldn't help but feel envious. He didn't even have 5000, and he was 5-6-year-old Shisui behind him. When the perception ninjutsu could no longer sense the root ninja, Muyu walked into the room and opened the scroll to see what latest orders Danzo had issued. Uchiha Shisui in your class is a genius of the Uchiha clan. Pay attention to his actions, confirm his character, and evaluate him. After reading it, Muyu was a little emotional. Danzo's fear of Uchiha was really close to pathological. Shisui is only 6 years old this year and has just started ninja school. For such a child, just because he has a little reputation as a genius in the clan, Danzo asked him to pay attention to and evaluate him. Of course, it is not ruled out that Danzo has ideas about Shisui and wants to pull him to the root. However, Muyu does not think that Danzo's ideas can be realized. The third generation will let Danzo know who is the Hokage. The third generation can tolerate the existence of the root organization, but cannot tolerate the existence of an overly powerful root organization. The upper limit of a genius Uchiha is too high. God knows how far he can grow, so the genius Uchiha should either stay in the Uchiha clan honestly or join the Anbu. After reading it, Muyu destroyed the scroll with fire escape. This new instruction was still within Muyu's acceptance range. In fact, even if Danzo did not send someone specifically, Muyu would report that Shisui was a genius when reporting. Because Muyu felt that with Danzo's attention to Uchiha, it was meaningless to conceal it, and it would only bring trouble to himself. Muyu split a shadow clone and let the shadow clone practice ninjutsu, while his original body began to practice to improve chakra. Chakra is currently his biggest shortcoming. Even if he has learned more ninjutsu and is proficient in it, it is difficult to exert its power without sufficient chakra. A ninja with less chakra is only strong to a certain extent, and a ninja with more chakra is not weak to a certain extent. It can be said that chakra determines the upper and lower limits of a ninja. The next day, because he did not have classes this morning, Muyu took this time to come to the information room of the ninja school. He had to sort out the test papers of the 4th grade exams in recent years. Since the process was smooth, he also found the 1st grade papers. His main purpose was to recruit disciples, but it was not an empty promise to improve the theoretical scores of the two. Muyu studied it and found that the questions in the exams every year would not be too different. Each question was of the same type, with different wording or data. Some papers even had exactly the same questions. Muyu nodded, and was confident that the two would pass. He felt that there was no need to practice questions, and just let the two do the papers from the previous 2 years. Passing should not be a problem. After taking a few papers, Muyu left the reference room and went to the office. She was listening to me the whole time yesterday, and it was obvious that she was very interested in me. Is there a possibility that she simply didn't want to talk to you? When she paid yesterday, she took the initiative to ask for an equal share. She was already thinking about me. Is there a possibility that she is afraid that you will use the excuse of one person treating the other to make another appointment? As soon as Muyu entered the office, he saw Weda Ai confronting Ikutani Yon. Muyu looked at Kimura Sujito who was watching the show next to him. Didn't Yon go on a blind date yesterday? He was just talking about his blind date process and wanted us to help him come up with some ideas on how to pursue her. But Weda felt that his blind date was not interested in him and advised him to find the next one. Kimura Sujito briefly introduced the cause of the incident. Teacher Haniu, you came at the right time. Do you have any special skills to pursue girls? Seeing Muyu coming, Ikutani Yong asked hurriedly without bothering to argue with Weda Ai. He felt that Muyu looked like someone who had many girlfriends. Special skills? I think as long as the other party can feel your sincerity, it should be enough. Miyu thought for a while and said, whether there are skills or not is another matter. If there are, Miyu will not tell Ikenyong. That is not what his personality should have, sincerity. Ikenyong showed a troubled look. How can he make the other party feel this thing? Give up. Iketani, don't you see what teacher Hanyu looks like? His useful skills may not be useful to you. Weda Ai said faintly. How is it possible? I admit that teacher Hanyu is indeed a little more handsome than me, but the difference is not that big. Ikenyong said unconvinced. You really won't turn back until you hit the wall. Weda Ai looked at the stubborn Ikegami with a headache. Read the error-free version at 69 book bar. 6 = 9 plus book bar released this novel for the first time. She herself is a woman. Doesn't she understand women? After listening to Ikegami's words, she knew that this blind date was in vain. But Ikegami refused to believe it. Come on, Miyu encouraged with a smile. What else could he say? Weda Ai, as a friend, couldn't persuade him. And Miyu really hoped that Ikegami would be busy so that he could go to the second class of the 4th grade to substitute again. Teacher Miyu is still good at vision. Weda, just wait and see. With Miyu's encouragement, Ikegami became more confident. During the afternoon class, Miyu made a little attempt. He deliberately lowered the quality of the lecture. He inferred from the previous system comments that the lecture score should be divided into 2 parts. One is the quality of the lecture content, and the other is the student's satisfaction. He wanted to get a B-level evaluation because there was an extra reward when he got an A-level evaluation for the first time. By analogy, there should also be an extra reward for getting a B-level evaluation for the first time. Lecture completed. Settlement in progress. Evaluation. B. Reward. Chakra plus 20. Complete a B-rated teaching for the first time, and get reward. Master chakra form change. A lot of memories of his practice of chakra form change suddenly appeared in Miyu's mind. Miyu was a little surprised. In the chakra system, form change can exist in parallel with property change, and both can effectively strengthen ninjutsu. Although form change is only proficient but not mastered, it is not limited to chakra attributes. Speaking of form change, we have to mention Naruto's Rasengan from beginning to end. Rasengan can be called the representative ninjutsu of form change. It has great power without adding property change. We can develop Rasengan. Miyu is going to develop this useful A-level unprinted ninjutsu by himself, with a detailed training process in the original book, plus his knowledge of form change. The process should not be too difficult. The chakra given by the B-level evaluation also made Miyu consider more about future classes. He felt that he could brush up some B-level evaluations appropriately in the future. It's not much at a time, but it adds up. After adding the development of Rasengan to his schedule, Miyu found that his life was now extraordinarily fulfilling. He usually attended classes during the day, taught Shisui in the evening, practiced developing ninjutsu at night, and trained Might Guy and Obito on weekends. His schedule was full. Miyu wanted to maintain such a peaceful life and develop steadily for a few years. Unfortunately, he did not travel to a good time, and it was destined to be difficult for him to enjoy a quiet life. On the 4th day after Miyu traveled to the ninja world, a piece of not-so-good news was sent back to Konoha from the front line. There was another chapter after 8 o'clock. Chapter 7. The Shadow of War. Frictions on the front line escalated, and conflicts broke out. Kumage-kure sent ninja troops to enter the land of hot water bordering the land of fire, and the figure of the Eight-Tails Jinchuriki appeared. When Miyu heard the news, he knew that the Third Ninja World War was not far away, or it has already begun, but it has not yet fully erupted. As a root ninja, the original body still knows a little more than ordinary ninjas. Since Beiya committed suicide last year, the ninja world has begun to surge undercurrents, whether it is Kumage-kure, Iwagakure or Sandgakure. When Miyu was just a cartoonist, he only thought that Beiya was no different from other famous strongmen, but after he accepted the memory of the original owner, he understood the value of the title of Beiya. Others are famous for tying or winning a well-known strongman, but Beiya is different. He is famous for killing. With extremely high killing efficiency, holding a chakra short knife, he directly turned into a ruthless mowing machine on the battlefield. No matter whether you are a genin or a jonin, you will be finished with a flash of white light. It's not that White Fang's strength has surpassed everyone else and he is the strongest in the ninja world, but his fighting style is particularly suitable for bullying weaklings. Anyone who is weaker than him can be easily killed by him in seconds. Seeing that Konoha has lost such a strong general, other ninja villages will naturally covet it, especially the Cloud Village and the Rock Village, because these two ninja villages suffered little loss in the Second Ninja World War. And now they feel that they have the strength to challenge the first place. Those damn Cloud Village ninjas, can't they be more quiet? It feels like another war is coming. Weta AI aside, if Lord White Fang is still here, they will definitely not dare to be so arrogant. Iketani Young said a little indignantly, it's okay, we still have the third generation and Lord Orochimaru, and we will definitely win like before. Kimura Sujito wanted to liven up the atmosphere. If a war breaks out, will our teacher also receive combat missions? Miyu asked the question that he was most concerned about. He didn't want to leave the ninja school. Although it is not impossible to become stronger by practicing on his own, it is not as fun as cheating. It depends on how intense the war is. If it is too intense, some teachers may be incorporated into various troops according to their specialties. Weta AI replied. Hearing Weta AI's words, Miyu could only pray to God Daozu in his heart, hoping to draw him later, or not draw him at all, because in the Third Ninja World War, Konoha had fought with the other four major ninja villages, which can be said to be extremely intense. At that time, they would definitely not let go of the power of the ninja school teachers. Miyu was not afraid of going to the battlefield. What he was afraid of was that he would go to the battlefield before he developed. This Third Ninja World War was really extremely dangerous. First of all, the 5 major ninja villages fought to their death, and then Uchiha Madara and Black Zetsu were secretly planning. Teacher Hanyu, you don't have to worry about this. We are the first ninja village. It is impossible for us teachers to go to the battlefield. Kimura Sujito has enough confidence in Konoha. I'm not worried about going to the battlefield. I just asked, and I will be ready for the battle when the time comes. Miyu smiled. Although I don't want to go in my heart, I definitely can't say such words. Miyu stopped talking and started practicing calligraphy. He walked towards the first grade class until the bell rang. Miyu looked into the classroom from the door. The shadow of war did not affect the children's joy. The classroom was full of cheerfulness. Brother, how is my trick? Has your cousin been completely subdued? 2 days have passed, and Shenu Chuyun is curious about Gang Zity's results. Oh, don't mention it, brother. Your trick is good, but my cousin is too cunning. After I acted according to your trick, he actually took the same action as me. Gang Zity said with a depressed look. At the beginning, it really worked well, and my cousin was scolded by his aunt, but what he didn't expect was that before he took the next step, his cousin directly used his own method to treat him. He was a child, and his cousin was only 1 year older than him, so he was also a child. In the end, the two of them went back and forth and were scolded and beaten. In the end, they could only stop the war and jointly defined this poisonous trick as a forbidden technique that could not be used. There is such a cunning guy. Shinai Uchiha sighed. Your cousin is really cunning. I can't think of any tricks for a while. Shinai Uchiha said apologetically. It's okay, brother Chiun. You have given me several ideas. Tell me about your troubles and I will help you share them. Gang Zity was ready to repay his kindness. I have a neighbor girl who I like very much, but I don't know how to get closer to her. Shinai Uchiha hesitated for a moment, but finally said it. It's not easy, just give her something she likes. Gang Zity suggested. Shinai Uchiha thought about it and felt that it made sense. I saw that she often looked at my flower garden when she passed by my house. She should like flowers very much, and they don't seem to grow flowers at home. Then send flowers. She will definitely be very grateful to you. Gang Zity affirmed. Ahem. Let's start the class. Miyu coughed twice to remind everyone that the class had started. The classroom, which was originally a little noisy, suddenly became quiet, with only the sound of Miyu's lecture. Read the error-free version at 69 Chuba. 6 = 9 plus Shu_bar released this novel for the first time. Although they only spent 4 days together, everyone liked Miyu. a teacher who taught in an easy and interesting way, and they would listen to him consciously. Lecture completed. Evaluation. A. Reward. Water style middle. Water array wall. Seeing the name of this ninjutsu, Muyu's mind flashed with information about the water array wall. This is a B-level water ninjutsu, and the effect is to create a wall of water to block the front. It is worth mentioning that Tobirama's water array wall is different from others. Tobirama's water array wall directly draws a circle with 360 degrees to protect himself without dead ends. Checking the sudden extra knowledge in his mind, Muyu found that he had mastered the nature change of water attribute chakra that he didn't know before. Muyu thought about it. If he didn't give him some knowledge of nature change, he wouldn't be able to use water style at all. Muyu silently gave a thumbs up to the careful system. After school, Muyu took Shisui to the small river in the southern forest where he had found a good training place. You have practiced the great fireball well. Today I will teach you a new fire jutsu. Muyu talked about today's training plan. After that, Muyu clapped his hands, and instantly opened his mouth to spit out 3 huge fire dragons. Under Muyu's control, the fire dragon circled in the sky and then sank directly into the water, evaporating a large amount of river water. For a while, the river surface was constantly rolling with white steam. Great Dragon Fire Jutsu. Shisui recognized what kind of fire jutsu this was at a glance. He had seen Uchiha Jonin perform this jutsu. It was precisely because he recognized it that he was even more surprised, because Muyu actually spit out 3 fire dragons in one breath, and only made 1 seal. Shisui became more and more curious about Muyu's strength. Watch carefully. I'll show you again. Muyu knew that the effect she wanted had been achieved when she saw Shisui's expression. It's so unlucky. My phone fell into the water. I hope it doesn't break. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 8 Gold Coins Exploded. The difficulty of this ninjutsu lies in instantly compressing a large amount of chakra into the shape of a fire dragon. Muyu demonstrated while talking to Shisui about the release techniques of ninjutsu. It happened that Muyu had recently obtained the skilled level of chakra form change, and Muyu also told Shisui a lot about the operation of chakra form change. I see. I roughly understand a little bit. Shisui nodded and prepared to try it out. Shisui's palms flew quickly to complete the seal, and the chakra in his body burst out, and then compressed to shape the shape. Fire style. Great Dragon Fire Technique. Shisui opened his mouth and spit out a 1-meter-high fire dragon rushing towards the sky, spinning in the sky and sinking into the water. Pa. Muyu smiled and applauded Shisui and said, I thought you might have to try a few times before you can succeed. It seems that I still underestimated your talent. Muyu was really a little surprised. He didn't open the Sharingan to copy, and he learned a B-level ninjutsu all of a sudden. It was too fast. Is this the gold content of Double S talent? It's because of your good teaching, Teacher Muyu, Shisui said humbly. He did not deny that he did learn things a little faster than ordinary people, but he also felt that Muyu taught very seriously and well. Except for the first time when Muyu pretended to be cool, she only used 1 seal. In the rest of the demonstrations, she used the complete seal and slowed down the speed to explain. And now I can't say that I have learned it. I can only use it. Thinking of Muyu's Great Dragon Fire, Shisui felt that he was still a long way from learning it. Whether it was the size of the fire dragon or the number, he was far behind. Then I will show you the Great Dragon Fire technique that I have learned a few more times. Muyu smiled. He was very satisfied with Shisui's humility and diligence. Looking at the chakra rising on the panel every day, he knew that Shisui was not idle when he returned. Time always passes quickly when you are serious. When Shisui was immersed in Muyu's teaching, the sky had quietly darkened. When Shisui released the Great Dragon Fire, he found that the fire was particularly bright, and then he realized that it was almost dark. He couldn't help but have a wonderful idea in his mind. Could it be that Teacher Muyu's gentle voice was some kind of ninjutsu technique that could make people forget the passage of time? Teacher, I'm going back. Shisui said goodbye to Miyu and prepared to go home. I have recently summarized my experience in practicing chakra form changes. You can read more when you go back. Miyu took out a booklet and handed it to Shisui. Shisui paused for a moment, then took the booklet handed by Miyu and bowed to thank him. Although he didn't say many nice words, Shisui had already respected Miyu more in his heart. He felt that Miyu was a very good teacher. Although they had only known each other for 4 days, Miyu never kept anything back. The more important things were, the more they were taught to him first, and never kept them for himself. Looking at Shisui's leaving back, Miyu raised the corners of his mouth and smiled. He was indeed his strongest gold mine, and he had found good things again. You gave the disciple a manual for practicing form changes. Because the disciple was very grateful, he was rewarded with a critical hit and obtained the ninjutsu wind style middle dot suppression, proficient level. Miyu's mind instantly showed a lot of techniques and methods for using wind style middle dot suppression, and also brought some knowledge of wind attribute chakra nature changes. Miyu was very satisfied with this reward. Wind style suppression is a very powerful ninjutsu. It is considered the top one in wind style. It has a large range and strong lethality. It can also be linked with his fire style ninjutsu. Moreover, the wind attribute change given by the system is also conducive to his development of the Rasengan. Originally, he was going to develop the fire attribute chakra change of the Rasengan himself. Since there is wind, he must develop the Rasenshuriken first. After a few days of exploration, Miyu has probably explored the mechanism of teaching and returning. The reward is affected by 2 aspects. One is the quality of the things he gives, and the other is the degree of gratitude of the disciple for the gift. The latter is more important. On the second day, he gave Shisui a string of snacks, and the system gave him 10 shuriken. On the third day, he gave Shisui the food he made by himself, and the system gave him 50 chakra points. They were all food, and the reward on the third day was obviously better. Obviously because the third day was more thoughtful and Shisui liked it more. After figuring out the mechanism, Miyu began to plan to make Shisui explode. He planned to look at Shisui's information when he went to school tomorrow to find out when Shisui's birthday was. The 5th day of traveling through the world of Naruto. Miyu originally had only 1 class today, but a 3rd grade teacher in the office had something to do and needed someone to substitute for him. Naturally, Miyu would not let go of this opportunity to help others. In 2 classes, he obtained 20 chakras once and a great fireball once. This was the first time Miyu obtained a ninjutsu that he knew, but what surprised him was that the repeated ninjutsu system directly increased the training experience of the ninjutsu. If it were a game, his should be a 1 life great fireball, or a strengthened 1 life great fireball. Read the error-free version at 69 book bar. 6 = 9 plus book _ bar released this novel for the first time. Teacher Hanyu, you are too easy to talk to. If you are like this, other teachers will definitely ask you to substitute for your class. Weda Ai said with some concern. Miyu thought to himself that if there was such a good thing, he would love it too much. We are all colleagues. It's okay. And I also like to teach students. Miyu smiled. Weda Ai didn't know what to say for a moment, because she looked at Miyu's expression and felt that Miyu said this sincerely. She felt very dreamy. Are there really such good people in the world? Substitute teaching without pay is equivalent to working for nothing. Time quickly came to the weekend. Ninja school is similar to his previous life. School is on Mondays and Fridays, and weekends are holidays. Because of the previous agreement, at 8 o'clock in the morning, Miyu took Obito and Might Guy to the place where he and Shisui practiced and began special training. Why do you have to get up so early on vacation? Obito wailed on the desk prepared by Miyu in advance. Early? I think it's okay. Might Guy scratched his head and couldn't empathize with Obito. Miyu handed the test papers prepared in advance to the two. This was the test paper Miyu made according to their teaching progress. Because they had just had 5 days of classes, they couldn't just use last year's monthly test paper. Moreover, for the situation of the two, Miyu was not going to let them solve the difficult problems. It would be enough to get the easy marks and pass the exam. Teacher Miyu. This is. Not long after, Shisui, who was preparing for training, also arrived. He saw Obito and Gai who were doing the test papers with a tormented look on their faces, and his expression was very puzzled. They are fourth-year students. I am tutoring them. You can practice yours. It's okay, Miyu explained. It was not a coincidence that Shisui came here. He called him last night. As for the purpose, Miyu felt that it would be very interesting for senior students to do boring tests while watching junior students practicing ninjutsu. Everyone, please give some feedback. Otherwise I thought it was in the standalone game. Chapter 9. Surprised Obito. Obito, who was doing the test, couldn't help but raise his head when he heard the two people talking, and then he was stunned. He recognized Shisui. The Uchiha clan lived together, all in the clan land divided by Konoha, so people of the same generation knew each other a little bit. After all, they were all from the same family. Even if they had never met, they had heard of each other. For example, a genius like Shisui often appeared in the mouths of elders of various families as the children of other families. It was hard not to know him. Obito was a little confused. Why did Shisui appear here? And he seemed to be very familiar with Miyu. Is Mr. Hanyu a distant relative of Shisui? Obito had an unreliable guess in his mind. Teacher, I'm done. When Obito was thinking about it, Might Guy next to him suddenly shouted with full energy. So fast? Obito was confused. He remembered that he didn't stop for a long time. Why did Might Guy suddenly say that he was done? Obito curiously looked over and saw that Might Guy had only done the first 3 multiple choice questions and left the rest blank. Obito didn't know what to say for a while, because the whole test paper only had 10 questions, 4 of which had 6 answers. Although he didn't know how to do many questions, he would choose to fill the test paper a little more to make it look better. Hearing Might Guy's words, Miyu came over and helped Might Guy check the correctness. He got 2 wrong, only the first question was correct. Sorry, teacher, Might Guy looked at the questions that Wei-san had done and still got 2 wrong, and didn't know what to say for a while. It's okay, it's normal not to know. If you know, you don't need me to teach you. Miyu smiled and comforted. Don't be so upset because your score is low. You can think about it from another perspective. You have a lot of room for improvement. After all, it is definitely much easier to improve from 5 points to 25 points than from 80 points to 100 points. Hearing Miyu's words, Might Guy's body was shaken. He had always been treated as the last one and then let it go, and for the first time he received encouragement from someone other than his father. Teacher, you are right. I have a lot of room for improvement. Might Guy's momentum was instantly full. Might Guy listened to Miyu's explanation very seriously, even if it was difficult to understand. He tried to understand. Next was Obito. He filled in 6 questions, but only got 2 correct. Miyu treated Might Guy the same way, comforting him first and then explaining the questions. After that, Miyu took out 2 more papers of the same type and handed them to the 2. There's more to do. Obito couldn't take his eyes off Shisui, who was practicing fire style. Great fireball technique. Shisui quickly formed a seal and instantly spit out a 2-meter-high fireball that flew towards the river. Looking at the huge fireball, Obito was very convinced and thought that he was worthy of being a famous genius in the clan. As an Uchiha, he also knew the classic ninjutsu of Great Fireball, but his Great Fireball, in terms of size and power, could only be considered a small fireball compared to Shisui. Another genius like Kakashi, Might Guy, who was standing aside, didn't know Shisui, but he looked at Shisui's figure and appearance, and he was only 6 or 7 years old at most. He was really surprised that he could use such a powerful ninjutsu. This reminded Might Guy of Kakashi, who he had identified as his nemesis. The ninja school has a 3-semester system. The first semester is from April to July, then the summer vacation, and the second semester is from September to December, followed by the winter vacation. After the winter vacation, it is the 3rd semester. Kakashi did not even finish the 2nd semester, but he applied for early graduation and passed. You can imagine how talented he is. At this time, Shisui gave Might Guy the feeling that he was Kakashi of the same age. Then Shisui began to practice the Great Dragon Fire technique. Might Guy was even more surprised to see that Shisui could actually learn other fire escape ninjutsu, because he had practiced the 3-body technique taught in school for 3 years. and he felt that he had learned it reluctantly. Seeing Shisui controlling the fire dragon flying in the sky, Obito was also very envious. If he could do this, he would definitely impress Lin. It can be seen that the change of form has made great progress compared to the first time. The speed of the fire dragon is a little faster. You must have practiced a lot when you went back yesterday, Muyu commented and praised. It is mainly because your training manual, Mr. Muyu, has helped me a lot. Hearing Muyu's praise, Shisui smiled and said, "Let me demonstrate it to you again." Muyu walked in front of Shisui, clapped his hands, and the chakra in his body quickly gathered and compressed. In an instant, he opened his mouth and spit out 3 huge fire dragons. Looking at the 3 huge fire dragons that were burning fiercely, Obito was a little dumbfounded. In the last second, he thought Shisui's Hail Long Fire was very handsome, but after Muyu's Hail Long Fire came out, Obito's opinion changed. Read the error-free version at 69 book bar 6 = 9 plus book _ bar first published this novel. The two did not seem to be performing the same ninjutsu. The fire dragon released by Shisui and the one released by Muyu were simply the difference between a snake and a loach. And why was the speed too fast? It felt like there was no seal. The 3 huge fire dragons flew quickly in the sky, leaving lines of flames in the flight track, and finally formed a few big words in the air. Don't look at it. Do the questions quickly. Obito read out the words in the sky, and then found that Muyu was looking at him with a nuclear smile on his face. Obito was startled for a moment, then explained, I was tired and looked at the sky for a while. He glanced at Might Guy with his peripheral vision and found that Might Guy, who was watching with him, had immediately picked up his pen to do the questions. His reaction was very quick. Have you seen enough now? Muyu asked. I have seen enough. I have seen enough. Obito also quickly picked up his pen and started to do the questions. After doing the questions for a while, Obito couldn't help but stop writing and asked, Teacher Hanyu, what is the relationship between Nu and Shisui? The relationship between teacher and disciple. What do you think it is? Muyu took a look at Might Guy's paper and answered, I think it's like master and disciple too. Obito didn't say his unreliable guess at the beginning. Teacher Hanyu, if I passed the exam, can you teach me the ninjutsu you used just now? Obito continued to ask. In his mind, he had already started to show off the new ninjutsu to Nohara-rin. In other words, he was ready to open champagne. Of course. Muyu nodded. Really? Obito looked surprised. Really? Teacher Hanyu, what kind of taijutsu have you mastered? Might Guy looked at Muyu expectantly, although he also thought that Muyu, who released the Great Dragon Fire technique, was very handsome. Might Guy had a clear purpose. He only practiced taijutsu. Muyu did not speak, but walked in front of a big tree, concentrated chakra on his feet, tensed his muscles, and then kicked out a whirlwind kick at a very fast speed. With a bang, the tree quickly fell to the ground, stirring up a cloud of dust. Do you like this taijutsu? Muyu retracted his feet, patted the dust, and looked at Might Guy with a smile. Chapter 10 Muyu, yes, you guys made a lot of money. Looking at Muyu's extremely fast and clean whirlwind kick, Might Guy's eyes lit up instantly, and he felt that he had encountered the love technique in his dream, which simply satisfied all his fantasies about physical skills. Simple, fast, powerful, and handsome. I like it. Please teach me this when the time comes. Might Guy expressed his satisfaction with Konoha's whirlwind with great momentum. As long as you like it. Muyu smiled and nodded. Might Guy's reaction was within his expectations. After all, this physical technique was developed by Might Guy himself in the future, and he also developed a whole series of big whirlwinds, strong whirlwinds, and various Konoha whirlwinds. It would be strange if he didn't like it. After getting Muyu's guarantee, Obito and Might Guy were very happy, and they felt much more comfortable looking at the test papers that usually gave them a headache. Look at me firing on all cylinders. I must hit more than 4 this time. Obito was so excited that he rubbed his hands, and those who didn't know thought he was going to fight. I must hit more than 3, otherwise I will run 500 laps around Konoha tonight. Might Guy was also fierce in order to learn the love technique in his dream, and he directly used self-restraint. He planned to compete with Kakashi after learning this taijutsu to see how much his strength had improved, but the sudden enthusiasm faded quickly. After doing a few questions, Obito understood the truth. If he was pushed to the limit, he might be able to release a bigger fireball, or throw 5 shuriken at the bullseye in one breath, but he had no way to solve the questions. He supported his head with one hand, and kept playing with the pin in various postures with the other hand. He was upset, and even the green leaves swaying in the wind were not pleasing to the eye. It felt like they were mocking him for not being able to solve the questions. Obito couldn't help but look at Might Guy next to him. Although he and Might Guy have been classmates for more than 3 years, and they have a common friend, Kakashi, they have never played together and their relationship is very ordinary. They are not strangers, but they can't be called friends. They can only be called friends of friends, and they just happen to be classmates. When he thought of Might Guy, his first reaction was that he was the last one. Although he was also called the last one, Obito thought he was just a little biased. His ninjutsu shuriken throwing was not bad, but his theory was particularly poor. It's just that the other Uchiha are too good, and they are excellent in all courses, which makes him, an imperfect Uchiha, look like a slacker. But Might Guy is different. Might Guy is not good at theory and ninjutsu. He ranks last in most courses and is recognized as the slacker. But at this time, Might Guy showed better patience than him. Even though he was scratching his head with difficulty, Might Guy still worked hard to overcome the problem. Obito thought of the lofty ambitions that Might Guy said when he was ridiculed. I believe that if I keep working hard like this, I will definitely become the strongest taijutsu ninja. Although Obito was not one of the people who laughed at him, when he heard this, he didn't think that Might Guy could become the so-called strongest taijutsu. But now his thoughts have changed a little. It's hard to say whether he can become the strongest taijutsu ninja, but he should be much stronger than those who laughed at Might Guy. It might be good to be friends with him, Obito muttered, so that they can deal with that hateful Kakashi together. Watching Might Guy doing questions non-stop, Obito also began to write furiously, racking his brains to think. Miyu looked thoughtful as he watched this scene. He didn't expect that these two people could produce such a chemical reaction together. Obito, who was originally impatient and couldn't sit still, was influenced to calm down and do the questions. In the future, similar methods can be used to stimulate Obito to practice. After the two finished, Miyu helped them to correct their answers. Obito got 3 correct answers, and Might Guy got 2 correct answers. Alas, it's still less than 4. I've tried my best. Obito lay on the table with a look of exhaustion. Run 500 laps in the evening. Might Guy added the punishment for failure to his exercise plan. Seeing this, Miyu comforted him. You are actually only 5 questions away from passing the exam, and you only took an hour to improve 1 question. Isn't it a lot better to think about it this way? Obito and Might Guy thought about it, and it seemed to be true. Then passing the exam and ninjutsu were just around the corner. After comforting him, Miyu smiled and took out 2 more papers. Obito looked at the brand new test paper on the table, and then thought about the 3 weekends before the exam, and his eyes went dark. But he could only pick up the pen and continue to do it, because if he gave up now, wouldn't it be a waste of time to do the previous papers? At this time, Shisui, who had recovered his chakra, began to practice fire escape again. There were constantly fire dragons flying in the sky, attracting Obito's attention. Teacher Hanyu, after we learn your ninjutsu, are we considered your disciples like Shisui? Obito thought for a while and asked. If you want, then it is. Miyu replied ambiguously. Hee, since we will all be disciples sooner or later, why don't you teach us now, teacher? Obito revealed his purpose. Miyu cast a suspicious look. Although this was the result of his special layout, your map of Yen State was too short. Read the error-free version at 69 book bar. 6 equals 9 plus book _ bar is the first to publish this novel. Obito patted his chest and assured, Teacher Miyu, I definitely don't want to learn, but I think these two can be done together. After Obito finished speaking, he pulled Might Guy next to him and said, Gay, you mean it, right? Teacher, I think what Obito said is right, Might Guy also wanted to learn Konoha whirlwind as soon as possible so that he could compete with Kakashi. What if you don't pass the exam? Miyu didn't rush to agree, but asked back. Teacher, I'll do whatever you say, and I'll listen to you. Obito was still very confident that he would pass the exam. Me too. Might Guy nodded and added one. Is that so? Miyu showed a tangled expression, as if he was still hesitating about something. Teacher Miyu, just believe me. I will definitely study hard with you and won't embarrass you. Obito saw that there was a chance and continued to say, me too. Might Guy also clenched his fist and promised, well, I believe you can do what you say, and I will teach you the Great Dragon Fire technique and Konoha whirlwind after you finish this paper. Miyu looked convinced. Great, I knew that you are the best, Mr. Miyu. I will definitely not let you down, Obito said excitedly. He felt that today was his lucky day. He not only improved his theoretical scores, but also got a great teacher for free. He made a lot of money. Mr. Miyu, I will definitely work hard to practice your physical skills, Might Guy said seriously. He also felt that he was lucky today to meet someone who was willing to be his teacher and teach him physical skills. Do you want to establish a master-disciple relationship with Uchiha Obito? Do you want to establish a master-disciple relationship with Might Guy? Looking at the two pop-up windows, Miyu showed a satisfied smile. Yes, you made a lot of money. Chapter 11. Small but cute. Relationship established successfully. Current trust level 2. Relationship established successfully. Current trust level 2. Seeing that the trust level was all 2, Miyu nodded secretly. It was worth his trouble to disguise himself as a prey to seduce. Miyu felt that the trust level was quite difficult to improve. It should take time to grind. If it was trust level 1, the initial benefits would be much lower. There are 2 disciples with S potential or above. Get the skill of teaching. Professor, the knowledge you impart is easier to absorb. A very simple and crude skill, but also very powerful, is to increase the effect of lectures and teaching. Miyu tried it. This is also a passive that can be turned on and off. However, for something like this that has no harm, Miyu naturally chooses to turn it on, unless one day Danzo sees that he teaches well and asks him to teach at the root, then he will turn it off. The only thing that disappointed Miyu was that the number of times the apprenticeship was returned did not increase with the increase in disciples, and there was still 1 chance per day. He also thought about making something for Shisui and exploded 50 chakras. He cooked for 3 disciples every day, and he could increase 150 chakras a day at least. This was much faster than taking classes. It turned out that he thought too much. However, if there were 3 disciples, even if there was only 1 chance, it would be better than just 1 person. Because people's emotions have a threshold. Under gradual stimulation, the threshold will slowly increase, and it will not be so easy to be moved to explode a big prize. If there are 3 people, they can take turns to explode gold coins. Not only will there be more big prizes, but it can also slow down the growth of the emotional threshold. Besides, the current growth rate is not bad. Miyu thought to himself and glanced at his own panel. Name, Hanyu Miyu. Age, 18. Chakra, 4405. Skills, Fire Style, Great Dragon Fire Technique. Water Style, Water Array Wall. Wind Style, Suppression. Teaching. Compared to when he traveled through time, Miyu increased a total of 105 chakras, of which 90 points were exploded in class and returned by teaching, and the remaining 15 points were obtained by his own practice and the return of his disciples. This is just the result of Miyu's 5 days, because most of Miyu's rewards are various ninjutsu. If Miyu only brushes chakra, he will have 100 chakra in a week just in class, not counting the return from apprenticeship. But Miyu thinks it is better to brush more A-level rewards or AB in half at this stage. The ninjutsu rewarded by the system lectures are all learned directly, and not just the initial learning, but the kind that can be used in battle after mastering it directly. If it is a ninjutsu with attributes that he has not mastered, it also has its own nature change, and it will increase experience when it is repeated, which is really considerate. If he wants to spend time practicing those ninjutsu, it will take a considerable amount of time, and how to find the training method is also a problem. However, When he has mastered more methods, Muyu thinks he should still use more chakra. After all, chakra is the foundation of ninja. Teacher, I'm done. Obito, who wanted to learn new ninjutsu quickly, took out 120% of his seriousness to complete the test paper. I'm done too, Might Guy reported unwillingly. 2 people. Muyu was glad that this was Naruto, and the clone technique was very common. Muyu created a shadow clone and said, "You go explain the principle of Konoha's whirlwind to Gai first, and then demonstrate it several times." Because one of them was learning taijutsu and the other was learning ninjutsu, Muyu couldn't teach them both, so he could only create a shadow clone. He planned to teach Obito ninjutsu with his main body first, and the clone would explain it to Might Guy. After teaching for half an hour, they would switch places, with the main body teaching Might Guy and the clone teaching Obito. Muyu would not be a close teacher to one person. He wanted to give his warmth to every disciple. Muyu was just like when he taught Shisui, very carefully breaking down and explaining, which could be described as hand-in-hand teaching. You taught your disciple the fire style, Great Dragon Fire technique, and because the disciple was very grateful for the reward for critical hits, he obtained the ninjutsu water style, Water Dragon Bullet technique, proficient level. Muyu fell into thought. He remembered that he also taught Shisui the Great Dragon Fire technique. Why didn't he count the return for teaching a disciple at that time? He thought of a reason. His Great Dragon Fire exploded from Shisui. It might be that the reward exploded from the same disciple could not be used for the return for teaching a disciple to continue to explode rewards. Muyu silently memorized this hidden rule. Don't use the Water Dragon Bullet with 44 seals. Muyu couldn't help but complain in his heart when thinking of Kakashi and Zabuza's Water Dragon Bullet. It might be cool to watch anime with hand seals like this, but in reality, it is difficult to use ninjutsu that requires so many seals, unless there is someone around to help you hold it back. The system's proficiency level did not disappoint Muyu. He only needed 6 seals, and if he continued to practice, the more proficient he was, the more streamlined the hand seals could be. After teaching Obito for half an hour, Muyu went to Might Guy to instruct him and let the clone teach Obito. After both of them finished teaching, they would also go to instruct Shisui, constantly wandering among the 3. The error-free version is available at 69 book bar. 6 = 9 plus book bar released this novel for the first time. At noon, Muyu personally went down to the river to catch 4 fish, then made a fire and grilled them, 1 for each person, as lunch. It's delicious. Teacher Muyu, if you open a barbecue restaurant, you will definitely have a good business. Obito praised while eating. Shisui and Might Guy nodded. Be careful, don't eat the fish bones. Muyu smiled and shook his head. Is it delicious? Muyu thought it should be ordinary, because he really didn't have the skill of grilling and rarely grilled. The reason why it tasted good was that the atmosphere was very good and there was a sensory blessing. Shisui was usually alone at home, and he should rarely eat with so many people, especially in the wild. Obito usually ate with his grandmother, and Might Guy ate with his father. In addition, they had never eaten this kind of grilled fish, so it was novel. With so many blessings, the originally ordinary grilled fish became delicious. After resting for an hour after dinner, Muyu took the 3 of them to continue practicing. In fact, this ninjutsu is not very difficult. Obito looked at the round fire dragon he released and felt a sense of accomplishment. This was much smoother than his previous practice of the Great Fireball. It happened that Shisui was also practicing the Great Dragon Fire and spit out a fire dragon. Looking at Shisui's ferocious-looking fire dragon with fangs and a fierce momentum, Obito silently controlled his cute little fire dragon to hide behind him. Might Guy, who had kicked the whirlwind kick countless times, wiped his sweat and was about to stop to rest when he saw this scene. Perhaps because of the hardships they had shared in the morning, Might Guy walked over and comforted them. It's okay, the fire dragon is small and cute, and sooner or later it will become as powerful as Teacher Muyu. Although it was comforting, for some reason, Obito felt an inexplicable sense of frustration, which made him very uncomfortable. This frustration made Obito, who had originally wanted to take a break, instantly full of energy and began to continue practicing the Great Dragon Fire technique. Seeing Obito so motivated, Might Guy was unwilling to be left out and rested for a while and soon continued to practice. These two people are quite compatible. Miyu, who had been watching from the side, couldn't hold it in any longer. He found that Obito and Might Guy were really good together. After practicing until dinner time, Miyu asked them to go back to their homes and told them to continue tomorrow. On Sunday, they practiced for another day, and the apprentice returned 50 points of chakra. Then a new week began. Chapter 12. Personality is a good thing. In the morning, after getting up, Gangzidi quickly washed up, ate breakfast and rushed to school. "Didn't you get up early today? Why are you in such a hurry?" the old mother beside him asked in confusion. "Of course I went to school early to study," Gangzidi answered without turning his head. This was just a lie to perfunctorily deal with his mother. Although Gangzidi didn't hate going to school, he didn't like it very much either, because not all teachers were as lively and interesting as Miyu. The real reason why Gangzidi was in a hurry to go to school was that he was eager to know whether his good brother Shenu Chuyun had taken the first step in his relationship. He gave Shenu Chuyun the idea on Thursday, but on Friday Shenu Chuyun said that he didn't dare to go to school and needed to think about it. Gangzidi thought that the 2 days of the weekend should be enough to think about it. When Gangzidi arrived at the classroom, there were not many people, and Shenu Chuyun hadn't come yet. But Shenu Chuyun didn't let him wait for long. After about 7 or 8 minutes, he saw Shenu Chuyun walked in listlessly. "Chuyun, didn't you sleep well yesterday?" Gangzidi asked in confusion. Shenu Chuyun shook his head. "Did you send the flowers out over the weekend?" Gangzidi asked excitedly. "Oh, don't mention that." Hearing Gangzidi's words, Shenu Chuyun's expression became even more depressed. "She looked at our flower garden not because she likes flowers, but because she is allergic to pollen and is worried that the pollen will be blown over." Gangzidi was silent for a while after hearing this news, and then asked, "Did you send the flowers?" Shenu Chuyun did not answer Gangzidi's words, but the silence and the resentful expression on her face had silently answered Gangzidi's question. Gangzidi patted Shenu Chuyun's shoulder and comforted her. "It's okay, I remember a girl who played with me who is very cute. How about playing together another day to get to know her?" "That's great, Deej." Shenu Chuyun swept away the dull atmosphere and smiled instantly. "I thought of another clever plan to help you deal with your cousin over the weekend." "That's great. Tell me what kind of clever plan it is." "Start class." Miyu's voice reached the ears of the two, and the two realized that class had already started. They were so engrossed in chatting that they didn't notice the bell. So the two of them sat up and started to listen to the class. They missed Miyu's class after 2 days. Miyu did not disappoint them. The class was relaxed and comfortable, and they had learned a lot of knowledge unconsciously. Lecture completed. Evaluation. A. Award, Water Style, Water Cutting Wave. Seeing that the reward was Water Cutting Wave, Miyu's eyes lit up instantly. This ninjutsu is not simple. This is a water style developed by the second generation. It can spray out a super high pressure straight water column with amazing power. It can even cut off the roots of the sacred tree. Miyu was in a very good mood, and then another good thing happened. "Teacher Miyu, I remember that you don't seem to have classes in the afternoon. Can you help me take the get out of class? I have a ninjutsu class for class 2 of grade 4 in the afternoon." In the office, Ikami-young walked to Miyu's side and hoped that Miyu could help him take the class again. "It's okay to substitute for me." "Teacher Ikami, are you feeling unwell?" Although she was very happy that there was another reward to be taken, she still had to maintain her personality. Miyu asked with a worried look on her face. "I'm fine, thank you for your concern, Mr. Hanyu." Ikage-young first thanked Miyu, then explained, "It's the blind date before. I asked her out for a walk this afternoon. Why not pick a time when there are not many classes?" Weda Ai complained. "I want to, but she said she's only free this afternoon." Ikage-young said that if he had a choice, he wouldn't want to bother Miyu. After all, Miyu is too nice. Seeing him suffer, Ikage-young felt embarrassed. Weda Ai was too lazy to talk to Ikage-young. She really felt that he and the blind date would not have a good result, because if the other party was really interested, he would definitely think about Ikage-young, instead of letting Ikugaya trouble his colleagues. Then Mr. Ikugaya, you should do your best. Muyu smiled and said, it's better to be busy so that he can get more rewards. Thank you so much, Mr. Hanyu. If it works, I'll treat you to dinner at the most expensive restaurant in Konoha. Ikugaya thanked, and then hurried out of the office. He had to go home to change his clothes and clean himself up. What I said last time was right, Mr. Hanyu. If you continue like this, others will ask you to substitute for them as soon as they are not available. Weda Ai sighed, it is a pleasure to help others, and colleagues should help each other, Muyu said with a serious face. You are just too nice, and it is easy to suffer losses like this. Weda Ai sighed. Muyu smiled and did not speak, and began to practice calligraphy. Looking at Muyu's serious look when practicing calligraphy, Weda Ai could not help but feel that the gap between people is really big. If Ikugaya was only 1/4 as good as Muyu, he would not have never had a relationship until now. When he felt that the time was about right, Muyu stopped writing, tidied up the table, and went to the 4th grade 2nd class. When Muyu walked to the door of the classroom, the bell rang. Teacher Ikugaya is busy, so I will substitute for the ninjutsu class this afternoon. Muyu walked up and explained. He glanced at the classroom, and everyone except Obito was there. About 3 minutes into the class, Obito hurried into the classroom, and saw Muyu on the podium, and Obito was stunned. He ran so fast that he actually saw Teacher Muyu in his class. This was what Obito was thinking at this moment. Read the error-free version at 69 book bar. 6 = 9 plus book _ bar released this novel for the first time. He even doubted for a moment whether he had walked into the wrong classroom, but seeing those familiar classmates, he was obviously not wrong. Obito didn't care about taking a break and hurriedly explained, Teacher Muyu, I didn't mean to be late. I ran into her on the way. I ran into an old lady and wasted time. Before Obito finished speaking, someone in the class helped him finish his words, causing a burst of laughter. What I said is true. If I knew that you, Teacher Muyu, would be in class in the afternoon, I would definitely come half an hour earlier. Obito continued to explain. He was afraid that Muyu would think that he didn't study hard and would stop teaching him. Go back to your seat. Muyu nodded to agree with Obito's statement, and then added, you can't be late for Teacher Ikugami's class either. The ninjutsu class in the ninja school starts from the 1st grade, but only 3 ninjutsu are taught: the transformation technique, the clone technique, and the substitute technique. Although it seems a bit of a waste of time to learn only a few basic ninjutsu in a few years, it is actually quite reasonable, because geniuses like Shisui are few and far between. For those who are only chunin at the end of their ninja career, it is not easy to learn these 3 ninjutsu well, and there are other courses. Although they have taken the course of Sanshin Jutsu countless times, Muyu's ninjutsu class still makes them feel bright. Is that so? No wonder the clones were not the same as the original body before. Some students made progress on the spot. I really hope that Teacher Ikugami will have more things to do in the future, so that I can take more classes from Teacher Muyu. Some students said their thoughts in a joking tone. Everyone around them agreed. Muyu did not express any opinions on this. He just sighed in his heart that the skills of the system are really useful. Lecture completed. Evaluation. A. Reward. Lightning release lightning clone. Muyu's mind instantly appeared the skills of changing the nature of lightning attribute chakra and various experiences of lightning release shadow clone. Although it is not a particularly strong ninjutsu, Muyu, who has unlocked another chakra attribute, thinks it is not bad. After all, he has already shipped once in the morning. For the next half-month, Muyu maintained this rhythm. When no one asked him to substitute for a class, he would study the theory of ninjutsu in the office, and when someone asked him to substitute for a class, he would accept anyone who asked. He would teach Shisui, Obito and others at home, and then practice his chakra himself. Maybe it was because the quality of the substitute class was so good, the students he had taught wanted to come again, and coupled with the fact that Muyu was popular with the teachers, Muyu suddenly became a well-known teacher in the ninja school. The students felt that Muyu was a perfect teacher with interesting lectures, gentle manner and handsome appearance. The teachers also felt that Muyu was a good colleague who was sincere and kind. As the center of the topic, Miyu did not have too many ideas. He just established the character he wanted to establish. Now he was guessing why the masked ninja standing in his yard came. Sorry everyone, I encountered something, so the update is late. Chapter 13, Minato Namikaze will explode if you look at him for one more second. You have completed your task very well. This is what Danzo asked me to give you. Ping Shui-sei handed 2 scrolls to Miyu. Miyu took the scrolls and nodded calmly without saying anything. There was no need for the root ninjas to communicate too much with each other. Ping Shui-sei did not say anything else. After handing the scrolls to Miyu, he quickly left to prevent Miyu's identity from being exposed. After sensing that Ping Shui-sei's breath was gradually fading away, Miyu returned to the room and opened the 2 scrolls. One scroll recorded a fire escape ninjutsu, which was the Hail Long Fire technique. The other scroll was Danzo's affirmation of Miyu's work and the latest instructions. Danzo first affirmed Miyu's work completion, saying that Miyu made a good decision to give full play to his subjective initiative and quickly integrate into the ninja school, and hereby rewarded him with a powerful fire escape ninjutsu. Then Danzo told Miyu not to be proud, and to continue to develop in the ninja school according to this momentum. Pay close attention to Uchiha Shisui in the class, and try to pay attention to other Uchiha students. Finally, Danzo made a big promise to Miyu. If Miyu could keep up the performance, he would help her get promoted to a special jonin and hold an important position in the ninja school. After reading it, Miyu ignited a flame in his hand and turned the 2 scrolls into ashes. Special jonin. Hold an important position. Miyu smiled. If it was the original owner, he might be motivated by Danzo's reward and promise, but Miyu, the rewarded fire escape was the Hail Long Fire, which he already knew, and he had no desire to be promoted to a special jonin. So Miyu was calm and just wanted to laugh. Miyu was preparing to practice with his original body, and when his clone was reading a book, he suddenly found that he had finished reading all the books on ninjutsu at home. He thought for a moment and prepared to go to the library in Konoha to borrow some books. Konoha has a large library with all kinds of books and materials, even ninjutsu, which was established in the 2nd generation. Of course, there are only some ordinary ninjutsu of D and C levels in it. It is impossible to find any forbidden or high-level ninjutsu in it, and the price of borrowing ninjutsu is not cheap. But it has nothing to do with Miyu, because he didn't go to borrow ninjutsu, but to find information related to ninjutsu and sealing techniques, and to narrow it down, it is related to binding curse seals. The ninjutsu obtained from lectures is faster than practicing by himself, and he wants to try to study whether he can break the tongue curse seal on his body. Although this curse seal is not as disgusting as a bird in a cage, it is not comfortable to have a curse seal placed on your body by others. Walking on the streets of Konoha, watching the pedestrians coming and going, Miyu was a little dazed. It has been more than half a month since he traveled to Naruto, and this is the first time that Miyu has come out to stroll around in his original form. Usually, he has to go to buy vegetables with a shadow clone. Because of his special identity and the dangers of this world, Miyu always feels insecure. After using cheats for more than half a month, he knows a little more ninjutsu and a little more chakra. Miyu has a little more confidence and feels that he will not die from unknown AO. When he arrived at the library, Miyu took out his ninja notebook and handed it to the ninja on duty. It recorded some basic information about Miyu, such as his name, ninja number, etc. This library is only open to ninjas. The ninja on duty looked around and nodded to signal Miyu to go in. Just as Miyu was about to look for information, a familiar figure came towards her. It was also a man with blonde hair and a gentle smile on his face. Sensing Miyu's gaze, Namikaze Minato also looked at Miyu. The two nodded slightly, and then Miyu went in and out of Minato. Name, Namikaze Minato. Chakra, 40,000. Potential, S. Evaluation. Killing a jonin is like killing Kun, and he will explode if he looks at it for one more time. Miyu's face did not change on the surface, but he was extremely surprised in his heart. It was the first time he saw tens of thousands of chakras, and it was 40,000, which was equivalent to 86-year-old Shisui. The evaluation was also frighteningly high, as if the Jonin could kill at will. At this time, Minato did not have the title of Yellow Flash. Now he was just a powerful Jonin in the eyes of the public. His master, the three ninjas, Jiraiya, was more famous and one of the popular candidates for Hokage. However, Miyu thought about it and realized that Minato's evaluation was not wrong. It was not difficult for Minato, who was proficient in Flying Thunder God, to kill ordinary Jonin. This kind of fast ninja was simply too strong to bully weaklings. It would be great if Minato already had a son in the Jonin school, Miyu said regretfully in his heart, so that he could find a chance to get close to Minato. In fact, he wanted to make friends with Minato, because Minato's attainments and sealing techniques were not low, and he was a little greedy for Minato's sealing techniques. Curse seals are essentially sealing techniques, and are one of the branches. Read the error-free version at 69 book bar. 6=9 plus book bar released this novel for the first time. If he had a master of sealing techniques like Minato as an advisor, it would be much easier for him to break the seal of the Root of Tongue disaster. As for Kushina, the identity of Jinchuriki was too sensitive, and Miyu didn't want to cause trouble for himself. After taking 2 books related to sealing techniques and 3 unimportant books, Miyu left the library after completing the registration and payment. In the southern mirror forest of Konoha, Miyu was leading his disciples to practice before the exam. You two have not forgotten what you said before. You must pass the theory test tomorrow, Miyu reminded Obito and Might Guy. Of course, if you fail, you will be punished by Miyu teacher, Obito said confidently. Although he spent most of his time practicing ninjutsu, and only occasionally talked about theory and did papers, just now they did the papers of previous years, and Obito got 30 points. According to his previous experience, this score is already several points higher than the passing score. The passing line of the ninja school is half of the average score, and the average score is generally more than 50, so he is very stable. That's right, if you fail, you will run 800 laps around Konoha, Might Guy shouted very imposingly, and he just got 30 points. Not only must I pass the theory, I want to get the first place in actual combat. After receiving Miyu's teachings for more than half a month, Obito felt that he could beat his previous self. I won't give up the first place, Might Guy expressed his dissatisfaction. Miyu smiled and said nothing, but knowing the overall strength of the 4th grade, he knew that the two of them might not be able to get first place, because there was a Hyuga clan student in class 1, grade 4 who was quite strong. Although that student had only a potential, Obito and Might Guy had not yet realized their potential. Obito had not opened the Sharingan, and Might Guy had not mastered the 8 gates. But Miyu couldn't say. After all, the level was too low and there were too many unexpected things. Miyu glanced at Shisui, who was reading quietly. He was sure that Shisui's results were definitely the first in the whole grade, and he was the first in both theory and practice. If he could play across grades, Miyu could only say that he might be the first in the whole school. I don't know if the system will give rewards to the teacher if I do well in the exam, Miyu guessed in his heart. Chapter 14. The last one will eventually strike back. It's my first exam, I'm a little nervous. I don't know if the questions are difficult. I hope they're not difficult. If I don't pass I'll get a beating when I go home. It shouldn't be that serious. Didn't teacher Miyu also do a mock test for us? It's easy to pass, maybe because it was their first exam. Many students in the 1st grade class were a little nervous. They were worried that the questions were too difficult, and they were worried that they would get a bad grade and get scolded when they go home. Uchiha-un, are you nervous? Gangziti asked Shinai Uchiha-un. What's there to be nervous about? It's just a small test. Look how easy I am to pass it, Hongdu said with a smile. Of course, you're not nervous. This is different from usual. The results will be announced at that time, Shinai Uchiha-un replied. I'm a little nervous too. I only scored 80 in Mr. Hanyu's mock test last time. The real exam should be a little harder. I should only score 60 or 70. Gangziti nodded. My mock test score is a little better than yours. I scored 87, and I feel that this time I might be 60 or 70. Shinai Uchiha-un said with a bitter face. No, did you all score so high? Hongdu was a little confused. She was full of confidence, but she only scored more than 60 in the last mock exam. The mock scores are all fake. They can't be counted as true. Shinai Uchiha sighed. Try to do better in the exam, so that the average score will be higher. I heard that if the grades are too bad, the teacher may be changed, and it will not be teacher Miyu at that time. Gangziti told the gossip he heard. Change teacher? You can change other teachers, but teacher Yu can't be changed. Hongdu didn't want Miyu to leave. Although she was the head teacher, Miyu only had more classes in class 1. Not all classes were taught by Miyu. There were several other teachers. Well, other teachers' classes are too boring. Only teacher Yu's classes are interesting and easy to understand. Shinai Uchiha agreed. Why don't we tell the whole class about this news and motivate everyone? Shinai Uchiha thought of a good idea. He saw that in novels, morale must be boosted before a big battle. Hongdu thought this was a good idea, and then stood in his seat and announced the news to everyone. Hongdu's words caused a commotion in the classroom. Miyu was their favorite and respected teacher. Everyone, try your best to do well in the exam. If teacher Miyu leaves in the future and another boring teacher like the physical training teacher comes, it will be terrible. Gangziti took the opportunity to speak loudly. Try your best to do well in the exam and never let teacher Miyu be replaced. I just said that I will look down on anyone who fails this time. Teacher Miyu has said it so well. Shisui did not participate in it. It didn't matter. He would take action and directly win the first place in the whole grade. Students with such results would naturally not be replaced. Everyone, be quiet. The exam time is almost up. Just do your best. Miyu's voice suddenly appeared and the classroom was instantly quiet. Everyone looked towards the place where the voice came from, and saw that Miyu had walked to the door at some point. I believe everyone can get a good score, Miyu said with a smile. Without staying too long, he quickly went to the class he was going to supervise. So many students wanted to try their best to let him continue teaching, so Miyu was naturally happy. However, Miyu could only say that they were worrying in vain. Even if they changed teachers, they would still look at the whole semester and the whole school year. Moreover, the mock test paper that Miyu gave them was actually more difficult than the real test paper. Walking into the classroom of Class 2, Grade 4, Miyu went straight to the podium and announced, "Everyone be quiet. The exam is about to begin." The teacher invigilation was randomly assigned, and he happened to be invigilating Class 2, Grade 4. Teacher Miyu. Many people in Class 2, Grade 4 greeted Miyu, and Miyu smiled and nodded in response one by one. Not only was Obito Might Guy his disciple in Class 2, Grade 4, but this class was also one of the classes he taught more often, so everyone was quite familiar with him. In addition, with the comparison of Ikutani Asami, everyone liked Miyu more. Teacher Miyu is watching here. We must pass this time. Might Guy took a deep breath, looking as if he was facing a great enemy. If Might Guy had to choose between taking the theoretical exam and fighting a formal genin, Might Guy would rather choose to fight a formal ninja. He will graduate next year. If he fights against a formal ninja, he might have a burst of energy and win. But for some theoretical subjects, he is helpless even if he gets angry. Just wait and see. Lin, I promise to overturn your perception of me this time, Obito said proudly in a low voice. You will definitely pass this time, right? I believe you can do it, Obito. No, Harlan encouraged with a smile. Although Obito has said this countless times and failed, No Harlan is still willing to believe in Obito and give encouragement. Try to do what you can do correctly, check it several times, and leave the difficult questions to the end. No Harlan reminded Obito softly. Read the error-free version at 69 book bar. 6 equals 9 plus book bar published this novel for the first time. As a good friend, she really hopes that Obito can get rid of the title of the last place. Yeah, Obito nodded and agreed. Soon another invigilator came into the classroom. It was Kimura Sujito, a teacher in the same office as Miyu. 2 teachers invigilated in one examination room. When the bell rang, Miyu and Kimura Sujito distributed the test papers together. Then the 2 of them supervised the exam together, one quietly and the other moving, and occasionally sat on the podium to chat. Teacher Ikutani is also very uncomfortable. It is estimated that the bonus for this semester is on the line, and the 2 last place students are on the line. Kimura Sugito sighed softly. It's hard to say. Maybe they can pass the exam if they study hard this semester. Miyu smiled and shook her head. Miyu thought that Obito and Might Guy's performance this time should be able to surprise a lot of people. They haven't passed the theoretical exam for 3 consecutive years. If they can pass, they should have passed it long ago. The higher the courses are, the harder they are. Kimura Sugito thought that Miyu was too optimistic. Fortunately, they will graduate after this school year. Otherwise, Kimura Sugito thought that if such students fell into his hands, it would be really painful. After a brief chat, Miyu continued to patrol. He missed going to class a little bit. Because of the exam, the whole school was suspended for 3 days. The first day was various theoretical exams, the second day was practical combat, and the third day was also practical combat. The final battle would determine the grade ranking. For him, the 3-day suspension meant that he had practiced several fewer ninjutsu and refined dozens of chakras less. Fortunately, the apprenticeship was still usable. After the theoretical exam, Miyu gave Obito some shurikens, which exploded a little and exploded 50 chakras. When the time comes, just watch, Teacher Miyu. I will definitely use the shurikens you gave me to defeat them all and take first place, Obito said gratefully. The practical exam is about to begin. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 15, The Unfavored Obito. At the number 16 training ground, Miyu was calling the roll before the exam. Because the whole school was taking the exam together, and the actual combat required space, the school playground obviously could not accommodate so many people, so they went directly to the training ground to take the exam. After confirming that all the candidates had arrived, Miyu and Kimura Shanran announced the start of the lottery. The rules of the actual combat exam were very simple. First, the students were called according to the class roll call list and asked to come up to draw lots. Then the battle opponents were determined by the lottery numbers. Number 1 played against number 2, number 3 played against number 4, and so on. I'm number 1, Lin. Which number are you? After Obito drew the lot, he couldn't wait to find Nohara Lin. I'm number 10, so in this case, Obito, you're in the first game. Nohara Lin replied, it doesn't matter which game, I will definitely win anyway. Obito was very confident, and he believed that everyone would be shocked by his current strength. After practicing with Miyu for a month, Obito felt that he had gained something new every day. Now he has left himself a month ago far behind. After asking Nohara Rin, Obito asked Might Guy's number again. Number 40, Might Guy replied. In this case, we can only meet at the end. Obito didn't expect Might Guy to be the opposite of himself. Don't lose before me, Obito. Might Guy gave Obito a thumbs up to cheer him on. I should say this, I'm Uchiha. Obito didn't know whether Might Guy was doing it intentionally or unintentionally. Why did it sound so provocative? Where do you two get the confidence from? The classmate next to him complained. How could the 2 last place students meet at the top? The first battle is about to begin. Please ask candidate number 1 Uchiha Obito and candidate number 2 Uchiha Tatsuki to prepare for the exam. Miyu glanced at the time and announced that the exam officially began. Obito didn't argue with those who complained about him, and quickly walked to the square open space with white lines drawn to prepare for the exam. Uchiha Tatsuki also quickly walked into the exam space and looked at Obito. Although both of them are Uchiha, of the same age and classmates, they have hardly ever spoken to each other. There is no melodramatic plot. It is simply that both sides are not interested in each other. Uchiha Tatsuki thinks that Obito is a bit silly, not strong enough, and often late. He has never seen such a weak Uchiha. Obito thinks that Uchiha Tatsuki looks cold and difficult to get along with. Both sides are Uchiha. This is interesting. Those who are having fun can hardly hold back their laughter. They are all from the same ninja clan. Whoever loses will be embarrassed. What's the fun of this? Except for Uchiha Tatsuki winning, Uchiha Obito can't win. The people next to him think that this is a battle without any suspense. You know, except for being beaten by Kakashi in the first year. Uchiha Tatsukai has always been the first in the class in the second and third years. And what is the level of Uchiha Obito? He has never passed the theory test, and his actual combat is just mediocre. Even so, he can still beat Uchiha Tatsukai. Lezerin thought that it seemed to be true. Uchiha Tatsukai can be said to be a standard Uchiha ninja. He is excellent in both actual combat and theory, except for the perverted Kakashi who graduated from the first year. No one in the class can match him. It is really difficult for Uchiha Obito, the last one in the Uchiha clan, to beat an excellent Uchiha like Uchiha Tatsukai. Obito, be careful, Nohara Rin said worriedly. She felt that Obito's luck was really bad. Originally, with Obito's strength, he would not be at the top of the class, but he would not be eliminated in the first round. But when facing Uchiha Tatsukai, a tough guy who has always been the first, Nohara Rin just hoped that Obito would not show off his strength to avoid injury. Mentally, she supported Obito to win, but the reality was that there was a clear gap in strength between the two sides. Almost everyone is pessimistic, but the victory under such circumstances is even more refreshing. Might Guy crossed his arms and had a hearty smile on his face. Unlike others, he believed that Obito could win. The movement of Class 2 of Grade 4 even aroused the curiosity of other 4th grade classes around, and many people came over to take a look. The practical test is relatively free, as long as you don't leave the training ground. But seeing that it was Obito and Tyuo, many people lost interest. They are all in the same grade, and have taken practical tests together for several years. Everyone knows which class is stronger. Uchiha Tyuo fighting Uchiha Obito. Isn't this pure bullying? What's the point of watching it? Only some people who want to see Uchiha Tyuo's strength stayed. The two stood opposite each other and made a seal of opposition with each other. This is a necessary process for fighting in ninja schools, which is to tell the other party that I am going to take action. And after the fight, you have to make a seal of reconciliation, symbolizing that everyone is still a good partner. Begin. Muyu saw that the two were ready and announced the start of the battle. As soon as Muyu finished speaking, Uchiha Tyuo quickly took out 3 shuriken from his ninja tool bag and threw them at Obito, locking on to Obito's head, body and feet respectively, and then rushed towards Obito at high speed. Obito also took out 3 shuriken and threw them out quickly. Read the error-free version at 69 Chuba. 6 = 9 plus Shu_bar released this novel for the first time. The 6 shuriken collided with each other and fell to the ground with a crisp metal collision sound. The shuriken throwing of the Uchiha clan is indeed extraordinary. Even Uchiha with ordinary talents like Uchiha Obito has a good shuriken throwing. Kimura Shanran commented, "It takes good accuracy to intercept shuriken with shuriken." Because the venue was not large, Uchiha Tyuo quickly approached Obito and quickly threw a right hook. Obito was not afraid at all, and he clenched his fist to meet him and started a fight with Uchiha Tyuo. The two sides fought back and forth, and the venue was dusty and very fierce. Hey, this Uchiha Obito is so good at physical skills? The people who came to watch the fun were surprised. Uchiha Obito, who was called the last of the Uchiha clan, actually fought back and forth with Uchiha Tyuo. People outside the class were surprised, not to mention the people in the class. The people in the class looked like they had seen a ghost. The normal process should not be that Obito was kicked away and killed instantly by Uchiha Tyuo. Obito has really become much stronger. Nohara Lin opened her mouth slightly, a little unbelievable. She always thought that Obito was just showing off like before, but she didn't expect that he really became stronger this time. Uchiha Obito is still a little bit behind. Kimura Shanran shook his head and said, as a chunin, he could see much more than the students. He is indeed a little behind in physical skills. Muyu nodded. After all, there was only 1 month. How could he take care of all aspects? In this month, Obito mainly practiced fire escape ninjutsu. Under Muyu's teaching, the nature of the change has made great progress compared to before. As Kimura Shanran said, Obito was gradually beaten back. I told you, how could Uchiha Obito be a match for Uchiha Tatsukai? The person who had just complained about Obito breathed a sigh of relief. If Obito beat Uchiha Tatsukai, wouldn't it show that he had no vision? However, He thought it would be better to cancel Obito's nickname of Uchiha's last place winner in the future. Calling him the last place winner with this performance seemed a bit self-defeating. Obito found an opportunity to temporarily increase the distance between the two with the help of Uchiha Tetsukai's fist power, and then quickly began to form hand seals. He had practiced fire escape for so long, not for a passionate fistfight with Uchiha Tetsukai. Don't think that this chapter is stupid because Obito was so arrogant that it attracted complaints from others. Chapter 16 Trust Level Improvement. Fire Style. Great Dragon Fire Technique. Obito quickly formed a seal, and all the chakra in his body gathered in his mouth, completing the nature and form changes at the fastest speed, spewing out a fiercely burning fire dragon, and rushed towards Uchiha Tsuyu. Uchiha Tsuyu was more and more surprised when he fought with Obito in close combat before. He didn't expect that it was just a holiday, and Obito had grown so much, and he had improved a lot compared to the third grade. Seeing Obito forming a seal to release a ninjutsu, Uchiha Tsuyu immediately began to form a seal to prepare to use ninjutsu to fight Obito. He didn't believe that Obito's physical skills had improved so much, and there would be no improvement in ninjutsu. He didn't believe that he would lose to Obito in a ninjutsu duel. Fire Style. Great Fireball Technique. Uchiha Tsuyu burst out chakra and blew a person-high fireball at Obito. On one side was a ferocious fire dragon with fangs, and on the other side was a fierce flaming fireball. The two ninjutsu were about to collide. I really envy them. They have already learned offensive ninjutsu. Many students watching were a little envious. Some of them hadn't even mastered the three-body technique, let alone learning new ninjutsu. They also had no channels to learn it. No, you call this the last one? Students from other classes were surprised. They originally looked at Uchiha Tsuyu's strength, but found that Obito could actually use such a decent fire escape ninjutsu. How could this level be called the last one? It's almost the same as being an excellent student. But I feel that Uchiha Tsuyu is still a little stronger. His fireball looks much bigger than Uchiha Obito's fire dragon. Someone commented, he felt that in a ninjutsu battle, the one with the bigger fireball would definitely win. He is worthy of being Uchiha. I didn't expect that Uchiha Obito is still hiding his skills. Even if he is not as good as Uchiha Tsuyu, he has the hope of getting the first place in my class with this strength. It's a pity that his theoretical score is too poor. Kimura Shanron sighed while grading the two. Students from those wealthy ninja families are different. When he was a student, he was secretly happy when he learned the three-body technique well, relying on the physical performance and the ninjutsu he showed. Even if he lost in one round, he would give Obito a high score. Just when the two ninjutsu were about to collide, the fire dragon suddenly rose upwards, without colliding with the fireball, but continued to bite Uchiha Tsuyu, and Obito quickly moved, dodging the fireball while controlling the dragon fire. Uchiha Tsuyu didn't expect Obito to be so unethical and not continue to fight with him in ninjutsu, but he had no choice for a while. The fireball couldn't turn. Seeing the fire dragon continue to approach, Uchiha Tsuyu wanted to dodge but found it was too late and could only grit his teeth and take it hard, ready to get hurt. At this moment, Miyu, who had been prepared for a long time, took action. He used the instant body technique to come to Uchiha Tsuyu's side and took him away, took him out of the battlefield and put him down. Thank you, teacher. Uchiha Tsuyu thanked Miyu. If Miyu hadn't taken action, injury would have been inevitable. Miyu nodded, and then announced the result of the battle. In the first match, Uchiha Obito won. Some of the students watching had not yet reacted. The situation had changed so much in just a moment. They were all ready to watch the fire escape duel, but suddenly Obito played a trick and ended the battle in an instant. If it weren't for the teacher's action, Uchiha Tsuyu might have been injured. This Uchiha Obito should not be underestimated. Some of the students watching looked at Obito with fear. Uchiha Tsuyu's big fireball that was as tall as a person looked impressive enough, but it was actually not easy to hit under normal circumstances. Obito's Hail long fire technique was different. Although the attack range was not large, it was very flexible and easier to hit the opponent. Good job, Obito. No Harlan congratulated Obito with a happy face. She was really happy for Obito. He defeated Uchiha Tsuyu head-on in the practical exam. In this way, even if the theoretical score was poor, No one would give Obito the title of the last. After all, ninjas still have to rely on their strength. As soon as Obito came over, he heard Nohara Rin's praise, and a smug smile appeared on his face. He said proudly, "Hee, I said it's okay." At this time, Obito was extremely grateful to Muyu. He knew why all these changes were caused by him becoming Muyu's disciple and receiving Muyu's careful teaching every day. If he had come before, he would probably have been beaten by Uchiha punches and lost his direction during the physical skills duel. Disciple Uchiha Obito's trust level has been increased, and the current trust level is 3. When Muyu was reading the exam list, a message popped up on the system. He glanced at Obito, who was smiling and talking to Nohara Rin. It seems that being in love is not without benefits. Muyu thought to himself, the trust level is very difficult to increase, because even if it is increased by 1 level, the increase is very huge, directly doubling the benefits, and it can also enhance the effect of teaching and returning. Don't look at the fact that the chakra returned by the apprentice to the master is not much before. That's because Shisui and others have not yet reached the period of rapid growth and strength. Read the error-free version at 69 book bar 6 = 9 +_. If that period comes, Shisui will increase 10,000 chakras, and 1 trust level will be higher, which means 10,000 more chakras. Muyu expected that 1 trust level 3 would appear within the semester. Obito's promotion to level 3 in 1 month was an unexpected gain. The next battle was not as fierce as the first one. Basically, there was no need for teachers to save the situation. Muyu sat on the chair and scored the students according to their performance, chatting with Kimura Shanron. If it weren't for the invigilation, Muyu would have wanted to walk around and use the appraisal to see if there were any geniuses missed. He has 4 disciple positions, and only 3 are currently used, with 1 vacant. Without knowing whether he can increase the number of disciple positions, Muyu is not going to use this quota for people with potential below S. The higher the upper limit of the disciple, the more rewards he can get in the future. Konoha has many geniuses, and the ninja world is very large. There is no need to rush to fill the positions. 1 more disciple will not bring any improvement in a short time. Muyu opened the panel and took a look at his attributes. Name, Hanyu Muyu. Age, 18. Chakra, 5300. Skills, Water Style, Water Severing Wave. Fire Style, Great Dragon Fire Technique. Water Style, Water Array Wall. Wind Style, Suppression. Evaluation, you have mastered many ninjutsu, including advanced ninjutsu, which enables you to deal with various situations. Ordinary jonin are no match for you. In fact, he improved his strength quite quickly. He increased his chakra by 1,000 points in 1 month, and his ninjutsu increased from only 2 to dozens, including the powerful ninjutsu Water Severing Wave. Just looking at the panel, he could beat the first time he came here. A morning passed, and the first 2 rounds of battles were over quickly. However, Might Guy was not able to justify himself like Obito, because his opponents were relatively ordinary. Although Might Guy solved them very cleanly, it was not to the point of subverting everyone's image. However, Muyu knew that this was a matter of time, because the practical tests within the class would end in the afternoon, and then the 2 sides would decide who would be the first in the class. Chapter 17. Might Guy's Reputation. At noon, in the office, the teachers discussed their experiences in the exam. The Hyuga Kamen in Class 1, Grade 4 is so powerful, he is indeed a ninja of the Hyuga clan. Almost no one in Class 1 can last a minute under him. Ikigandiyong said with some envy. It is estimated that he will be the first in the grade again in this practical battle. Ikigandiyong wished that he was the head teacher of Class 1, Grade 4 instead of Class 2. So that he could get a bonus easily and have money to go to a high-end restaurant to have dinner with his blind date. But this is impossible. With such good grades, it is naturally impossible to change teachers. Not necessarily. I think Uchiha Obito in your class is also quite strong. Maybe he can compete. Kimura Shanron interrupted. Ikigandiyong showed a puzzled expression and asked, Shugaido, you said the wrong name. It's Uchiha Tuo, right? He is really strong. How could I say the wrong name? It's Uchiha Obito. Kimura Shanron said that he was very young and did not have Alzheimer's disease, and he was talking about Uchiha Obito. Uchiha Obito, impossible. How can he be so strong? Ike Young looked at Kimura Shanron suspiciously, suspecting that he was fooling him. Uchiha Obito was a well-known Uchiha who was the last one. How could he have such a nickname if he was really strong? How can I lie to you? Uchiha Obito's opponent in the first game was the Uchiha Chiuo you mentioned, and he won very easily. Kimura Shanron continued. Seeing that Ike Young still didn't believe it, Kimura Shanron directly pulled out Muyu and said, Teacher Muyu and I are invigilating together. If you don't believe me, ask him. Ike Young looked at Muyu. Muyu nodded and said, it is indeed the same as what Teacher Kimura said. Uchiha Obito defeated Uchiha Chiuo in the first game. Hey, that's really strange. Ike Young scratched his head, feeling very incredible. He believed Muyu's words. After all, that was Teacher Muyu who was recognized by all the teachers only 1 month after joining the job. Don't be too reliable. Why can he beat Uchiha Chiuo? Uchiha Young scratched his head and couldn't figure out why it turned out like this. How could he beat the previous top student in the class? It can't be that a mysterious teacher came from the sky to teach advanced ninjutsu secretly. Looking at Uchiha Young's performance, Muyu thought to herself, you are so confused just because Obito showed his strength. If Might Guy shows his strength again, he must be suspected of being under an illusion. Uchiha Young can be regarded as winning by doing nothing. Muyu estimated that his bonus should be kept. Muyu thought about it and felt that Uchiha Young didn't win by doing nothing. He also contributed, because Uchiha Young often asked him to substitute for his class and helped him to recruit disciples and get rewards. He also made some contributions. In addition, he did treat him to dinner a lot, so he was considered to be a good person. Teacher Haniu's class is amazing. Weta Ai, who had been silent, spoke up. She was invigilating Muyu's first grade class. The overall level of the 3 body techniques feels almost the same as the second grade I teach. Weta Ai sighed, especially there's a super genius named Uchiha Shisui, who reminds me of the Hotei Kakashi from a few years ago. He will definitely be the first in the first year practical combat this time. Can he be compared with Hotei Kakashi? Is it so exaggerated? Ike Young looked surprised. It doesn't matter if he is the first in the grade, but it is terrifying to be on par with Kakashi. You know, Kakashi is a recognized super genius in the ninja school in recent years. His subsequent performance is also very impressive. He was directly promoted to Chunin 1 year after graduation. It's so exaggerated. He is not at the same level as other first-year students. Weta Ai nodded and said, this is too cool, Mr. Haniu. You are so lucky. You can easily get the evaluation. Ike Young looked envious. Why doesn't he have this kind of luck? He will be satisfied if he can keep the bonus. What luck? It's because Mr. Haniu teaches well. That's the overall level. You can't say that all the talented people have gone to Mr. Haniu's class. Weta Ai corrected. She didn't think that the strength of the first grade class was because there were many geniuses, but because Muyu's teaching level was excellent. Otherwise, how could the students in the classes being substituted hope that Muyu would come more often? It was not just 1 class or 2 classes. All the classes being substituted were well received. Slip of the tongue. Slip of the tongue. Of course I know that Mr. Haniu is good. My group of students wish I was busy every day so that Mr. Haniu could go to class. As he spoke, Ike Young was a little depressed. He only let Muyu substitute for the class occasionally, and he taught the class most of the time, but the students liked Muyu more. It's okay. It's all because the students worked hard enough, Muyu said modestly. After chatting with his colleagues for a while, Muyu quickly started practicing calligraphy until the afternoon exam began. It was still the number 16 training ground, but there were fewer people than in the morning. Read the error-free version at 69 book bar. 6 = 9 plus book _ bar released this novel for the first time, because the exam does not force students who have already lost to continue to participate. They can decide whether to come or not. As time passed, the battles continued one by one, and Noharlin, who was not very good at fighting, was eliminated in the first round in the afternoon. Might Guy, who could defeat any enemy neatly, was finally noticed by everyone. So Might Guy's physical skills are so strong? His speed is too fast. He defeated Taijutsu with one kick. The students watching were surprised. What a big change. I remember that I could only say that he was okay in the 3rd grade. Not so strong. A student who knew Might Guy was a little confused. Maybe he practiced harder in the summer vacation and the new semester? He could only think of this possibility. The last battle. Number 1 Uchiha Obito vs. Number 40 Might Guy. Please prepare to fight. Muyu announced the list of candidates for the last battle of the class practical test. Might Guy and Obito looked at each other after hearing it, and quickly walked to the test venue to prepare for the battle. Gay, I won't give you this first place. Obito glanced at Lin standing outside, and his fighting spirit was instantly full. In front of Lin, he really didn't want to lose at all. The same is true for me. Since I want to be the strongest, I have to get all of the first places I can fight for, Might Guy replied with high spirits. They really made it to the last. The students who had complained about the 2 before felt a little painful on their faces. They felt it was outrageous. The 3rd graders were still the 2 last ones. Who could have thought that the 4th graders would be so powerful all of a sudden? Who would dare to think so before the exam started? They all thought that Uchiha Tetsuko would be the best in the class in actual combat. They couldn't imagine what would happen to these 2 people during the holidays and the new semester. After the harsh words before the fight, Might Guy and Obito didn't say anything. The 2 stood opposite each other and formed the opposition seal. Begin. The collection growth rate is not very good. I plan to change the name to normal Hokage. I can get stronger by teaching. What do you think? Chapter 18 Mastering the changes in the nature of water chakra. When Muyu announced the start of the exam, Obito began to retreat quickly. While retreating and performing ninjutsu, he knew that Might Guy was very good at physical skills, so he would not fight with Might Guy in physical skills. Clone jutsu. Puff! Exclamation mark. After the ninjutsu was performed, 2 clones that looked exactly like him appeared beside Obito. The 3 Obitos kept running in a cross position, trying to confuse Might Guy. Konoha whirlwind. But Might Guy's speed was faster than Obito imagined, and he caught up in an instant. With an extremely fast whirlwind kick, the 2 clones were instantly kicked away, and Obito's body was also kicked back more than a meter. What a great power! Obito's arm trembled uncontrollably twice. He used his arm to resist the kick, and now his arm was already aching. Might Guy took advantage of the situation and immediately stepped forward to force Obito to continue fighting with him in close combat. But in a pure physical confrontation, Obito was no match for Might Guy and soon fell into a disadvantage. Who do you think will win? The students watching began to discuss the final winner, Might Guy. It seems that Uchiha Obito will be defeated soon. A student analyzed the situation on the scene. Not necessarily. When Uchiha Obito and Uchiha Tetsuko fought before, he was also at a disadvantage in a physical confrontation, but in the end he won by relying on fire escape. Some people also think that Obito, who has mastered the powerful fire escape, just hasn't exerted his strength yet. After all, Obito actually defeated the former number 1 Uchiha Tetsuko, and the record is still very good. Teacher Muyu, who do you think will win? Kimura Shanron suddenly asked. Might Guy. Muyu thought for a while and answered, yes. Although Uchiha Obito has mastered the powerful fire escape, this exam venue is not suitable for him to perform. Kimura Shanron agreed. Muyu nodded. In fact, the strength of the 2 is not much different, but Obito is currently like a turret mage who doesn't have much melee ability and can't cast spells without chanting. It's hard to beat Might Guy, a high-speed warrior, in such a flat area. Sure enough, the next moment, Obito was caught by Might Guy and kicked away with a Konoha whirlwind. Might Guy wins. Muyu announced the final results of the exam. The student who thought Obito would win just now couldn't help but cover his forehead. He felt that Obito never disappoints in terms of disappointment. When you think he will lose to Uchiha Tetsuko, he wins. When you think he will win against Might Guy, he loses. Might Guy, you are so good. How do you exercise? A classmate couldn't help but start asking Might Guy for tips on how to become stronger. How do you exercise? I get up at about 5:30 in the morning and run around Konoha to class. and then practice physical skills on wooden stakes all night. On weekends, Might Guy thought about his daily schedule and answered, "Goodbye." The student who asked the question was impressed by Might Guy when he heard that he got up at 5:30 in the morning. After he mentioned that he practiced physical skills on the wooden stake all night, he didn't want to listen anymore. He felt that a formal ninja would not practice like this every day. "Are you okay, Obito?" Lin walked to Obito and asked with concern. Obito patted the dust on his body and said easily, "It must be nothing. I lost this time, but I will definitely win next time. In front of the girl you like, you have to pretend that you are okay." But no, Lin is not so easy to fool. She grabbed Obito's arm, rolled up his sleeves, and saw a few bruises, so she glared at Obito and said, "Do you think that being strong will work? The injuries you suffer will not recover because of being strong. Hurry up and go to the infirmary to apply medicine," Lin said and pulled Obito to the infirmary. Obito said that he was okay, but he did not resist and followed Lin. His mouth was a little rebellious, but his body was indeed very honest. The practical test on the second day after the first place in the class ended here. Tomorrow's exam is for each class to send the top 2 students to take a practical test to determine the first place in the grade. After the exam, Might Guy was going to say goodbye to Miyu and go home. He wanted to tell his father, Might Guy, the good news. Might Guy could already imagine the scene of his father crying and shouting about youth. However, Miyu did not let Guy leave immediately. Instead, he took Guy to an uninhabited place on the pretext that he had something to give him. Miyu smiled and said, "K, congratulations on getting first place." After that, Miyu took out a booklet and handed it to Might Guy. "This is a manual for physical training that I wrote casually recently. It also contains some of my ideas for the subsequent development of Konoha Tornado. Just treat it as a gift for the first place in your class." Might Guy saw the manual, but he also noticed Miyu's hand holding the manual. Read the error-free version at 69 book bar. 6 = 9 plus book _ bar is the first to publish this novel. Miyu's hands looked clean on the surface, but the sharp-eyed Might Guy found some light gray spots on Miyu's palms, like ink marks that he had tried hard to wash but didn't wash clean. After looking at the contents inside, Might Guy instantly understood everything. This was not written casually when he had nothing to do. I'm afraid it was written for him with great effort and thought. Even if he didn't get the first place, he would give it to him for other reasons. The ideas for the subsequent development of Konoha Tornado, and it made Might Guy feel that this was tailor-made for him. If he didn't spend time on this, Might Guy wouldn't believe it. "Teacher Miyu, I will never let you down. I will definitely become the strongest physical ninja in the future." The emotional Might Guy was moved to tears. Miyu took out a piece of paper to wipe Might Guy's tears, patted Might Guy on the shoulder and smiled. "It's good that you think this way. For a teacher, the best reward is for the disciple to become stronger." When saying this, Miyu's expression was extremely sincere. "Yeah," Might Guy nodded heavily. At this moment, his belief in becoming stronger was even stronger. Looking at Might Guy who was gradually going away, Miyu looked at the system message and smiled. "You gave the disciple a manual for physical training." Because the disciple was very grateful, he was rewarded with a big critical hit and gained the mastery of water attribute chakra nature change. The trust level of the disciple Might Guy was increased. The current trust level is 3. Good luck. Miyu felt the extra memories in his mind and was in a very good mood. Generally, the rewards returned by teaching disciples are related to what the disciples are good at. For example, Shisui and Obito have more explosive fire escapes, and Ge has more explosive physical skills. However, there are also accidents, and sometimes there will be unrelated rewards. Compared with a certain physical skill proficiency, a chakra attribute mastery is undoubtedly much better. Miyu is very satisfied. If there are more of these things, maybe he can develop his own blood limit. As for the trust level increase, that is an extra surprise. Miyu feels that in the future, good quality things still need to be planned before giving them out, so as to stimulate the feelings to the maximum, so that it is easier to get good things. For example, if it was given to Might Guy normally, it would probably only give him a small boost, such as a skilled ninjutsu or taijutsu. But when Might Guy got the first place and was excited, it was given to him, Might Guy could see the indelible ink marks on his hands and finally say some chicken soup. The effect was completely different. Giving a gift when he got the first place would remind Might Guy of Muyu's teaching. Without Muyu's teaching, could he get the first place? This would initially stimulate his emotions. Then, Might Guy would see the ink marks on his hands and know how hard it was to get this gift. He would imagine Muyu's efforts and amplify his emotions. Finally, he would say some chicken soup and his emotions would explode instantly. The test will be over tomorrow, and the results should be out in 2 days. Muyu was still wondering if the system would issue exam rewards. Logically, the teacher should be rewarded for the student's excellent performance. Chapter 19, Graduating Early. The exam on the third day was much faster. After all, each class only had 2 people, and there were only 8 classes in one grade in the ninja school. Today was the same as the second day, and non-examinees could choose not to come. However, many students came to watch the exam today, wanting to see who would be the first in the 4th grade. Am I dazzled? Isn't that Uchiha Obito? Why is he standing on the side of the examinees? Someone asked in confusion. You didn't pay attention to the news of Class 2 yesterday? The person next to him asked. Well, we were unlucky yesterday and met the strongest in our class in the first round. We went home if we all lost. That's normal. Uchiha Obito has become very strong now and defeated Uchiha Shisui from their class. The students watching were discussing the contestants from each class with relish. Sometimes there would be arguments about who was stronger. At this time, even those who had previously complained about Obito and Might Guy would try their best to defend Obito and Might Guy. After all, they were the representatives of their own class. I guess only Shisui will be the first in the grade this time. After watching the first round, Muyu felt that Obito and Might Guy were in jeopardy. That Hyuga Fire Gate's soft fist is well trained, plus he has the advantage of the Byakugan. It is difficult for Might Guy to win. Not to mention Obito. Muyu can only say that the Hyuga clan's ninjas still have a lot of advantages in the early stage. The Byakugan is not as difficult to open as the Sharingan, and the family-inherited soft fist is also a very good physical skill. The two of them have been training with him for too short a time. Now their strengths are not long enough and they still have many shortcomings. As time passed, they entered the last 2 rounds of battles, Obito vs. Hyuga Fire Gate, and Might Guy vs. a ninja from Class 3 of the 4th grade. As Muyu expected, in front of Hyuga Fire Gate, Obito was beaten by the soft fist and couldn't find his way before he even used a ninjutsu. In the final, Might Guy's performance was much better than Obito, but his moves were completely seen through by Hyuga Fire Gate's Byakugan, and he still couldn't escape the outcome of losing. Obito was a little frustrated after losing the game. He was still thinking about competing for the first place, but he didn't expect that he didn't even make it into the top 2. Muyu happened to pass by, so she comforted him. Don't always think about your failure. You should think about how much you have improved compared to the last time, and work hard for the next time. Muyu said this, and Obito felt much better instantly, because in his last 3rd year final exam, his class ranked only 20th, and this time he was almost in the top 2 in the grade. By this calculation, his progress is too great, and the first place is just around the corner. Then Muyu passed by Might Guy, and unexpectedly, Might Guy also looked a little depressed. Muyu thought that with Guy's will, he should not care about a win or a loss. After thinking about it carefully, Muyu found the reason. It may be because he gave Might Guy a manual for physical training yesterday, which made Might Guy feel that he was shouldering Muyu's expectations. Failure always runs through life. This is life. Don't let a failure knock you down. Muyu comforted. Might Guy's body trembled. When it comes to failure, he has a lot of say. In the first entrance exam, he almost failed to become a ninja. Then he challenged Kakashi and was killed in one move. He was ranked last in all courses and was called the last one. Although he is only 8 years old now, Might Guy has experienced too many failures. He seems to have understood what his father Might Guy said about youth never fading. I understand, Mr. Muyu. Might Guy's eyes became more determined. What he should do is not to think about his gains and losses in frustration, but to train hard to win the next battle until he becomes the strongest. Muyu nodded with relief, and then started to pass by Shisui. When Muyu found Shisui, Shisui was surrounded by a group of students asking questions. Seeing Muyu coming, the students greeted Muyu one after another. "Mr. Hanyu, I got second place in the grade. Is there any reward?" Hongdu said with a smile as he walked to Muyu's side. Muyu smiled and touched Hongdu's little head, thought for a while and said, "How about I treat you to some dumplings?" "Okay, Mr. Hanyu is the best." Hearing that there were dumplings to eat, Hongdu immediately turned into the first Muyu to brag. "Shisui is the first in the grade and hasn't asked for the reward yet. Hongdu, you are too impatient." Gang Ziti on the side couldn't help but complain. "It's not that I really think Hongdu is impatient, but I'm just a little jealous of Hongdu. I'm afraid that my brother won't do well in the exam, and I'm also afraid that my brother will do too well in the exam. Now Hongdu is too good in the exam." Muyu smiled and sent all of the students away, and then took Shisui to the commercial street. "How do you feel?" Muyu asked. Read the error-free version at 69 Book Bar. 6=9 plus Book Bar published this novel for the first time. Shisui thought about it and said honestly, "It's very ordinary, and there is not even anyone who needs me to fight with all my strength. It's normal. After all, with your strength, there are not many people in the 4th grade who can match you, let alone the 1st grade. Muyu praised without hesitation. Then, "Mr. Muyu, do you think I should graduate early?" Shisui asked, looking into Muyu's eyes. Muyu's eyes were a very special color, the same blue as the sky. "Graduate early, because I heard that there were also very talented seniors who graduated quickly because they felt that they could not learn anything in the ninja school," Shisui replied. Muyu shook her head and said, "I don't recommend that you graduate in the 1st year. You should at least wait until the 2nd or 3rd year. Your strength may be very outstanding among your peers, but after leaving school, your opponents are not just your peers, especially now that a war may break out at any time. If you think that the courses in the ninja school are meaningless, you can use the shadow clone to help you go to school, and then the main body will practice according to my instructions." Muyu gave advice. Although Shisui survived the 3rd Ninja World War safely in the original work and broke out the name of the instant body Shisui, the original work did not have him, Hanyu Muyu, and the butterfly effect was hard to say. Muyu still hoped that Shisui would stay in the ninja school for a few years. You can't even kill a chunin in seconds, so what's the point of graduating? If he didn't have the strength of a jonin, he would not feel safe walking on the streets of Konoha. Hearing Muyu's suggestion, Shisui's eyes lit up and he nodded, thinking that Muyu's suggestion was very good. Then Muyu took Shisui to buy a bunch of dumplings and returned to school. Before the afternoon class, every student in class 1 of grade 1 received a portion of dumplings. Muyu would not really give the dumplings to only Hongdu, but after all, she agreed, so Muyu gave Hongdu an extra portion of dumplings. Teacher Hanyu is the best in the world. Hongdu was very satisfied. If there were a few more dumplings, maybe Konoha would have another Hanyu cult in the future. Other students also expressed their gratitude, and their already high favorability increased again. The efficiency of the ninja school is very high. All the results were sorted and announced 2 days after the exam, which also verified Muyu's guess. Chapter 20. Smiles don't disappear, they just move away. Izumo. Good morning. Early in the morning, walking to the ninja school, Gangziti greeted Shinayu Izumo, who he met by chance. Yeah, good morning. Shinayu Izumo responded. Gangziti put his arm around Shinayu Izumo's neck, locked Shinayu Izumo's neck and then let go and smiled. Why do you look so listless? Shinayu Izumo sighed and said, Ziti, have you forgotten that today is the day to announce the results? Yes, Izumo. Didn't you perform well in the exam? Gangziti remembered that Muyu said yesterday that the results would be announced today. Yes, I feel that the score may be very low. Shinayu Izumo looked up at the sky at a 45-degree angle, looking a little sad. It's okay, I didn't perform well either, and I guess I will be the same as you by then. Gangziti patted Shinayu Izumo's shoulder and comforted him. Then the two walked towards the ninja school together, and just when they were approaching the ninja school, they met Hongdu. Izumo, Ziti, good morning. Hongdu greeted the two happily. Hongdu, good morning. The two responded. Why do you look unhappy? Did you have a nightmare last night? Hongdu asked curiously. No, because today is the day for the results. Gangziti sighed. We didn't do well in the exam, and I feel that the score will be very low. Hehe. Is that so? I feel that I did very well in the exam, and maybe the score is quite high. Hearing this reason, Hongdu smiled proudly. Then I can ask Mr. Hanyu for a reward again. Although she hasn't seen the score yet, Hongdu thinks she can open champagne. After all, Gangziti Shinryu Izumo's theoretical score is very good. She did better than them, so wouldn't that be a high score? I really envy you, Hongdu. You are second in the practical grade, and you also did well in the theory. Shinryu Izumo expressed envy. Hearing Shinryu Izumo's praise, Hongdu couldn't help but swell up even more. She walked with the wind, like a big sister. Then the Hongdu trio also met Shisui and other students in their class when they entered the school. How did you do in the exam, Shisui? Hongdu asked curiously. Just average, Shisui replied calmly. Hongdu couldn't help but look forward to her own score. Shisui did averagely, so how could she be the first? It's still unlikely to be the first, but I should be in the top 5? Hongdu hadn't lost her mind and swelled up. She usually had average scores in exams. When she walked to the notice board, it was already surrounded by a bunch of students, and there were voices discussing the scores everywhere. The scores of this class are too high. Many of them scored 70 or 80. There is also a full score, and it seems to be the first in actual combat, which is really scary. It's worthy of being the class led by teacher Muyu. Make way, make way. Hongdu, who was eager to know her own score, didn't feel like paying attention to what others were saying. She took the lead and rushed in with Gangziti and Shinryu Izumo, and found the score sheet of class 2. 80 points. Great. Hongdu saw her name and the 80 at the end at a glance, and cheered happily. But soon she noticed a problem. Why did the ranking seem to be wrong? Ziti, Izumo, have you found your scores? Hongdu asked hurriedly. Yes, I found it. 92 points. Gangziti nodded and said, how much more? Hongdu suspected that she had heard it wrong. 92 points. Gangziti repeated. Konoha swear words. Hongdu slapped Gangziti's shoulder hard, and looked at Gangziti with two big brown-gray eyes in disbelief. You said you didn't do well in the exam, but you got 92? You call this a bad exam? Hongdu couldn't help asking. Luck. I thought I didn't do well, but it turned out to be okay. Gangziti smiled and fooled. How about you, Izumo? How many points? Gangziti asked. 97. Shinryu Izumo replied with a smile. How much more? Gangziti felt that he had heard it wrong. It was almost full marks. 97. Shinryu Izumo repeated. This time Gangziti heard it clearly, and the smile on his face gradually disappeared, while the smile on Shinryu Izumo's face became more and more intense. I was so sorry to comfort you so early in the morning, but you did so well in the exam. Almost full marks. Gangziti directly locked Shinryu Izumo's neck with his arm and took Shinryu Izumo out. Hongdu saw this familiar scene and decisively joined the fight, secretly punching Gangziti from time to time. Read the error-free version at 69 book bar. 6 = 9 plus book bar published this novel. These two people are so hateful. They did so well in the exam and still deceived her feelings. After studying hard for a month, Uchiha Shisui achieved perfect results in the academic assessment and received rewards. Chakra plus 300, Ninjutsu Proficiency Scroll. Ninjutsu Proficiency Scroll. Upgrade any ninjutsu that has been mastered to proficiency level. After studying hard for a month, Uchiha Obito achieved good results in the academic assessment and received rewards. Chakra plus 150. After studying hard for a month, Might Guy achieved good results in the academic assessment and received rewards. Chakra plus 150. As Muyu expected, the exams really had rewards, and they were much richer than the lecture rewards. In the past 3 days, he could not talk about 600 chakras even if his throat smoked. AB level evaluation was only 20 chakras. This was because Obito and Might Guy were too bad at theory and did not rank first in actual combat. Otherwise the rewards would be higher. Muyu suddenly had the urge to ask the school to hold more exams. Ninja schools usually only have 2 exams in a semester. If there were 10 exams in a semester, he would be flying to the sky. This idea was abandoned by Muyu in an instant because he knew that if he did so, he might not be able to get the rewards. When he usually took exams in class, they were considered exams, and he didn't see the system give him any rewards. Moreover, Miyu felt that his proposal would not be accepted by the school. 10 exams in a semester would be a lot of trouble for not only students but also teachers. Miyu thought about it and used the ninjutsu proficiency scroll. There are 3 semesters in a year, and there are 2 exams in each semester, which means that you can get 6 ninjutsu proficiency scrolls a year. Anyway, you can get it later, so it's better to strengthen your strength first to prevent accidents. Miyu used the ninjutsu proficiency scroll on water break wave, and many memories of practicing water break wave and various techniques suddenly appeared in his mind. Although Miyu now has a lot of ninjutsu, Miyu believes that the most powerful one is still water break wave. At noon, Miyu became the center of discussion in the office. "How do you teach, Mr. Hanyu? This student's theoretical score is too outrageous. The average score is several tens of points higher than other classes." Kimura Shanran couldn't help asking. "Yes, Teacher Miyu, do you have any tricks? Although the 2 in my class barely passed this time, I don't know for sure next time," Iketani Young said. Might Guy and Obito really shocked him this time. Not only did they take the top 2 in the class in actual combat, but they also passed the theory. When Miyu wanted to say something, a teacher entered the office and said to Miyu, "Teacher Hanyu, the principal is looking for you. The network cable seems to be broken because it is too hot, so the update is a little late." "Sorry." "I would also like to thank the book friends who rewarded me. I will post the specific names in the next chapter." This chapter was posted too urgently. Chapter 21. The third Hokage. "Please go to the principal's office as soon as possible." "Principal?" Weda Ai exclaimed in a low voice. "There are no powerful teachers in the ninja school. They are basically ordinary chunin. But the principal of the ninja school is not simple. There are only 2 principals in the ninja school at present. One is the 2nd generation Hokage Senjuto Bairama, and the other is the current 3rd generation Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen. Although he is the principal, it is not easy for teachers to meet Sarutobi Hiruzen, because except for coming to say a few words at the beginning of the school year, Sarutobi Hiruzen usually does not come to school, and will handle official business in the Hokage building." "This is exactly why," Weda Ai exclaimed. Sarutobi Hiruzen was actually in the principal's office and summoned a teacher alone, which was too rare. "Okay, I'll be there right away." Miyu nodded, and then said to the office teacher with an apologetic look, "Excuse me, everyone. I'm going to the principal's office. I'll talk about the lecture later when I come back." "What's there to be embarrassed about? Teacher Hanyu, go quickly and don't keep the 3rd generation waiting for a long time," Ikegami Young said, with an uncontrollable expression of envy on his face, and his eyes were almost like lemons. "He has been teaching for several years and has never been treated like this. Not to mention being summoned individually, he has never even entered the principal's office." However, Ikegami Young was not jealous when he thought of Miyu's teaching level and the quality of students. The average scores of other classes in the 1st grade were around 40 or 50, but Miyu's class directly rushed to more than 70, leaving the other classes behind. The actual combat scores were generally higher, and they also won the top 2 in the grade. Uchiha Shisui, who ranked 1st, was even recognized as a super genius. Ikegami Young asked himself, can he lead such a class? Number. After Miyu finished speaking, she turned around and went to the principal's office. The principal's office is on the top floor of their teaching building, which is the 5th floor. Miyu and their small office is on the 2nd floor. Looking at the sign of the principal's office next to the door, Miyu knocked on the door of the office. "Come in." A middle-aged man's voice with a lot of dignity came from inside the door. Miyu opened the door and walked into the office. Miyu glanced casually. The layout of the office was very monotonous. The bookshelf and desk were by the window, and there was also a set of tables and chairs by the door. And Sarutobi Hiruzen was not as old as he was at the beginning of the anime plot. His hair and beard were still black, and there were not too many wrinkles on his face. His eyes were full of majesty, giving people a sense of majesty without anger. Maybe because he was in the ninja school, he didn't wear the Hokage hat. "It's Mr. Hanyu, sit down quickly." Sarutobi Hiruzen didn't put on the Hokage airs. He stood up and walked to the table and chair by the door, smiling and motioning Miyu to sit down. "Sandame Hokage," Miyu said with respect, and sat down without being pretentious. In his previous life, the reputation of the third generation was not good. For various reasons, many things became his conspiracies. He didn't know what kind of person the third generation in front of him was, but as a teacher in a ninja school, his superficial work had to be in place. Even if he cursed in his heart, he had to smile on his face. "Hanyu, you are a person with a talent for teaching," Sarutobi Hiruzen praised with a smile. "I heard about the results of your class. The average score of theoretical scores is 20 to 30 points higher than that of other classes. In terms of actual combat, the top 2 in the grade are also taken by your class." The invigilator said that the mastery of basic ninjutsu such as transformation and clone techniques is better than other classes. "It's also because the students are serious. I just teach them to the best of my ability. The rest depends on their efforts." Miyu thought for a while and said, he was modest, but not completely modest. First, he said that there were also reasons of the students themselves. And then he said that he tried his best to teach and pointed out his own efforts. "Teach as much as you can." "Well said." Sarutobi Hiruzen was very satisfied with Miyu's answer and sighed. If there were more teachers like Hanyu who devoted themselves to educating students in the ninja school, there would be no need to worry about the training of the younger generation. Miyu did not respond to this sentence, but just looked like she was listening carefully. If she admitted it, wouldn't it mean that other teachers were incompetent and useless? If she didn't admit it, it would mean that other teachers were not serious. "Based on the performance of Class 1, Grade 1 this time, I will help you decide on the title of Outstanding Teacher for this semester," Sarutobi Hiruzen said with a smile. Miyu made a surprised expression on her face, and then thanked Sarutobi Hiruzen with a touching face. "However, Sandame-sama, isn't this a bit bad? After all, it's only been a month, and I'm afraid it will damage your reputation if it gets out," Miyu said with a worried look, worried that this would affect the reputation of the Sandame. Outstanding teachers are originally given to teachers with outstanding performance. If other teachers can also lead such a class, I will give it to them as well, Sarutobi Hiruzen said domineeringly. The third generation continued to make plans, saying, "If you, Mr. Hanyu, keep up this teaching quality for the next year, I will promote you to a special jonin and serve as the deputy monitor of the ninja school teacher class. Thank you for your cultivation, but as a teacher, my responsibility is to teach students well, and I always keep this in mind," Miyu said sincerely. Read the error-free version at 69 book bar. 6=9 book bar released this novel for the first time. He thought that Danzo and Sarutobi Hiruzen were indeed taught by the same teacher, and they made plans so similarly. Both of them were promoted to special jonin, but it was a pity that compared to the position of special jonin, Miyu really hoped that his students would improve, because this would make a lot of gold coins. Looking at Miyu's extremely sincere feelings, Sarutobi Hiruzen, who had seen countless people, was sure that Miyu was telling the truth, and he admired Miyu more and more. "Mr. Hanyu, I want to talk to you about some private matters next. I don't know if you are willing to listen," Sarutobi Hiruzen suddenly asked. Miyu nodded, thinking about what the third generation was up to. "I have a little son named Sarutobi Asuma, who just graduated this year and became a genin. He is still very immature in all aspects, which is a headache for me. I would like to hire you as a tutor to teach him." Sarutobi Hiruzen made an invitation. With the current teaching level of Miyu, Sarutobi Hiruzen felt that it was no problem to teach Asuma, a newly graduated genin. This was also a test of Miyu's ability. If the performance was really good, it would be worth it for him to come forward and ask Danzo for someone. Whether it was an excellent teacher or a special jonin, he used them to improve Miyu's favorability and pave the way for the future. These were all a matter of words for Sarutobi Hiruzen, so he was happy to make this move. "Sandame-sama, I need to think about this carefully." Miyu thought about it and did not agree directly. This was a bit beyond Sarutobi Hiruzen's expectations. He did not expect Miyu to refuse. "Because I have to teach during the weekdays, I definitely don't have time from Monday to Friday, and on the weekends, I have to think about how to start teaching next week. I can only agree if the teaching quality of both parties is guaranteed, so let me think about it, Miyu explained. Sandai was stunned for a moment, then laughed and praised Miyu again for being an excellent teacher, and then said that there was nothing else to do and he could leave. Miyu gave Sandai an appraisal before leaving. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 22 The Strength of the Peak Third Generation. Name, Sarutobi Hiruzen. Chakra, 170,000. Potential, S. Evaluation, high ninjutsu talent, good at combination ninjutsu. Single nature ninjutsu may not be comparable to bloodline limit. If I use 5 nature changing advanced ninjutsu at the same time, how will you deal with it? The peak third Hokage. Seeing the string of zeros in chakra, Miyu was surprised and a little envious when he walked out of the office. After all, this is a full 170,000 chakras, 130,000 more than the last time he saw Minato. But Minato is only 18 years old now. And it doesn't make much sense to compare a middle-aged ninja at the peak with a growing ninja. How should I write the report after I go back? In addition to being surprised, Miyu was already thinking about how to write a report to Danzo. Not having time to think carefully is just an excuse. Although he is not idle, he is not so busy that he can't spare a little time to teach Asuma in a week. Miyu can feel that the third Hokage is trying to win his favor. Otherwise he wouldn't say that he is an excellent teacher and a special jonin. But the third Hokage's sincerity is too little. There is no benefit, just empty promises. If the third generation had directly pointed out his route identity when he entered the office and asked whether he wanted to follow him, Miyu would have definitely kicked Danzo out and followed the third generation. But now the third generation did not point out his identity, and it was obvious that he was still hesitating. The old scumbag was acting like a jerk. If he agreed directly, Danzo would not get any good results. It would be better to find an excuse not to give an answer for the time being and throw this question to Danzo. As for whether the third generation did not know his identity, Miyu could only say that it was not impossible, but it was unlikely. After all, the root was an existence that could not be put on the table. If the third generation did not even know that the root ninja entered the ninja school, he would have been a Hokage and the principal in vain. After returning to the office, the teachers all asked Miyu curiously, "Teacher Hanyu, what did the third generation ask you to do? Is it a reward?" Weda I asked curiously. It should be. After all, the test results were so good this time, and he is a new teacher. Teacher Hanyu is too strong, Ikutani Young sighed, and he was convinced by Miyu. It's an affirmation of my teaching achievements. Miyu sat down and took out a pen and paper, then thought for a while and said, "When will I be affirmed by the third generation?" Kimura Shanron only felt that the gap between people was really big. He still remembered how immature Miyu was when he first came, but he didn't expect that he would surpass him, a senior, in teaching achievements so quickly. Just teach students to the best of your ability, Miyu said while practicing calligraphy. Teacher Miyu, can you please take my get out of class this afternoon? I have something to do. Kaiguyong poured a glass of water for Miyu and said, "Sure, I'm free in the afternoon." Miyu nodded and agreed. Teacher Hanyu, I finally understand why those students like you. Kaiguyong hurriedly thanked him. By the way, Shanron, lend me some money and I'll pay you back when I get my salary. Then Kaiguyong said to Kimura Shanron, he originally wanted to borrow from Miyu, but when he thought about how many times he had asked Miyu to take his class, he felt embarrassed. How much do you want to borrow? Kimura Shanron asked. He and Ikuyong were old friends, so it was no big deal to borrow some money. 80,000 ryo will be enough. Ikuyong thought for a while and said, 80,000 ryo? What are you going to borrow it for? Kimura Shanron's hand, which was about to take out the money, paused. The monthly salary of teachers in their ninja school is only 100,000 ryo, and Ikuyong is borrowing more than half of it. Although it's not that you can't borrow, You have to ask clearly. Miyu also looked at him sideways. The setting of Naruto is that 1 ryo is equal to 10 yen, so Ige is borrowing 80,000 ryo directly, which is equivalent to borrowing 800,000 yen. It may not be a big deal for those powerful ninjas, but it is still a lot for a chunin teacher. Dating. I can't treat people to ramen, right? Ige explained. You won't spend all your salary on dating, right? Kimura Shanron looked at Ige with a look of looking at a big scapegoat. What do you mean by spending it all on dating? Doesn't it mean that if you use it for dating, it's not for yourself? I didn't eat anything. Ige tried to defend himself. Come on, if you were alone, would you be willing to eat at those high-energy restaurants? Weta Ai complained. She had reminded Ige a long time ago, but she couldn't persuade him. She doesn't like you at all. She just treats you as a meal ticket. Weta Ai tried to wake up Ige. How is it possible? She called me Ige brother the day before yesterday. Ige showed an infatuated look on his face and retorted, 80,000 taels a time. I will call you, believe it or not. I can make you bankrupt. Weta Ai said expressionlessly, calling you brother won't lose a piece of meat. You, forget it. I'll lend it to you. Remember to save some money for yourself. Kimura Shanron sighed and finally lent the money to Ige. Hearing that Kimura Shanron was willing to lend money, Ige didn't care about Weta Ai, who was weird, and hurriedly thanked Kimura Shanron and left the office. Miyu thought that if Naruto also had short videos, Ige office routine could be filmed into a series of videos. Maybe it would be popular, so that he wouldn't be short of money. Read the error-free version at 69 Chuba. 6 = 9 plus Shu_Ba published this novel for the first time. After complaining inwardly, Miyu quickly settled down to practice calligraphy, and did not stop writing until the class was about to start. As soon as Miyu walked into the classroom, the students in the classroom began to get excited. Great! It's Teacher Miyu who is here to teach the ninjutsu class. My transformation skills are much more refined after the last class with Teacher Miyu. I hope that this time you can focus on the clone technique. Miyu glanced at him, and it was great that Obito didn't come again. 5 minutes after Miyu started the class, Obito rushed into the classroom in a sprint state. Seeing Miyu standing on the podium, Obito was a little dumbfounded. He thought that he was not late every day, but why did he feel that every time he was late, he ran into Miyu's substitute class? Wouldn't this lower his image in Miyu's heart? Teacher Miyu, Obito wanted to explain something. Sit down. Miyu motioned Obito to sit down, and then began to teach the clone technique according to the requirements of most students. Damn you, Mr. Ige, why didn't you inform Miyu that you were going to substitute for me earlier? Obito complained with a fist. During the break, Miyu called Obito and Might Guy out and asked about their test scores. We passed, Obito and Might Guy said with their heads held high. Miyu asked them in detail and found that they had a really hard time passing. The average score was 60, and they just scored 30. I don't know why, but this time the score is better than before. Originally, 25 points would have been enough to pass. Obito scratched his head and said, he also felt that it was very extreme. It may be because Miyu came to substitute for me before. Might Guy said, even someone like him who has a hard time learning can clearly feel the gap between Miyu and other teachers. Then won't it be higher next time? Obito was dumbfounded. If it was higher, he wouldn't be able to do it. Passing is my most basic requirement for you. If you can't do it, then you have to follow my arrangements. Miyu smiled kindly. If you can't even pass, the reward will probably be even lower. Obito and Might Guy looked at Miyu's smile and recalled the horror of being dominated by the test paper. They shuddered for a moment and then quickly said that they would pass the test next time. Miyu returned home, wrote the report, and submitted it. Not long after, a reply came from the root. I gave up. I was typing, and suddenly the school said that the freelance certification I got before was not valid. I had to get a new work certificate. It was a waste of time, so the update was late. Chapter 23 Little Sun and Red Pepper. There were 3 scrolls in front of Miyu. He opened them one by one. The first scroll contained money. Miyu counted them and found that there were 200,000 taels in total. Miyu put the money away, Money is a thing that is good no matter what world it is in. Ninjas are also big spenders. Whether it is various ninja tools or secret medicines needed for training, they are very expensive. Then he opened the second scroll, which was a C-level ninjutsu, fire style, flame bullet. This is a ninjutsu that Muyu has not drawn yet, but Muyu has mastered many fire styles, both large-scale and flexible, so there is no need to waste time practicing this flame bullet. Muyu picked up the last scroll and opened it. This was Danzo's reply to the report. Danzo first praised Muyu for her work completion. She became an excellent teacher so quickly and was praised by the third generation, so he was very satisfied. He gave her a reward and hoped that Muyu, skipping Danzo's paragraph, Muyu went straight to Danzo's requirements. Become Asuma Sarutobi's tutor, gain his trust, and become someone he respects. This was Danzo's reply to Muyu's report. Muyu put away the ninjutsu scroll, and then burned the other two scrolls. Although he didn't practice, he got them for free from Danzo after all, so it would be a pity to burn them. Danzo, this old guy, is not giving up on the position of Hokage. Muyu sighed. It is obvious that Danzo has some ideas about the youngest son of the third generation, but Muyu didn't care. At most, he could take a few hours on the weekend, which would not have much impact on him. Should we sell the house in the main city? Muyu thought of something. The original owner naturally didn't live near the sparsely populated southern forest at the beginning. In fact, he had a house in the main city of Konoha, which was left to him by his parents. But in order to conceal his identity, he got a house in the southern forest. Although he didn't live there much, the original owner would go back every year to clean the house in the main city. Muyu thought that since he didn't live there, he might as well sell it. He remembered that the location of the house was not bad, and it might be worth a lot of money, and then he could use the money to buy secret medicine for cultivation. Although there was help from the system, the more he could improve, the better. Thinking of this, Muyu got up and went to the main city of Konoha, ready to look at the house and clean it up so that he could sell it. Muyu found the house according to the original owner's memory. When he was about to take the key to go in, he found that a blonde figure just walked out of the house next to him. "Hello, are you the new resident?" Namikaze Minato greeted curiously. He bought this house for several months, and it was the first time he saw someone enter the house on the right. Namikaze Minato thought a new neighbor had moved in. When Muyu turned around, Namikaze Minato looked at the blonde hair and blue eyes, and instantly remembered that he had met Muyu in the library before. It's not that he has a super memory and remembers everyone he met, but Minato also has blonde hair and blue eyes, plus the gentle smile on Muyu's face. Minato saw that Muyu felt like he had met another version of him, so he was impressed. "No, this is my home, but for some reasons, I moved out later and rarely come back," Muyu greeted with a smile. He felt that the house didn't need to be sold, and it was good to keep it. Before, he was worried that he couldn't get close to Minato and get the knowledge of sealing techniques for free, but now he is here. They are neighbors, and according to reason, Minato moved in later. "Minato, I'm here to see you." At this time, a vibrant female voice sounded. "Hey, Minato, you didn't tell me that you have a brother who looks like you." Kushina looked at Muyu, who also had blonde hair, blue eyes and a gentle smile on his face, and couldn't help but joked. From the overall facial features, the two people are actually not alike, but the same dazzling blonde hair and that kind of smile really gave Kushina a sense of brotherhood. "Sorry, this is my girlfriend. As you can see, she is a little too lively, please forgive me," Minato said to Muyu with an apologetic look. "This is my neighbor." Minato wanted to say Muyu's name, but found that he didn't know his name yet. "My name is Haniu Muyu." Muyu introduced herself. "Hello, my name is Uzumaki Kushina. Your name is quite nice." Kushina hugged Minato from behind and stuck her head out to introduce herself. "Hello, my name is Namikaze Minato." Minato smiled and pulled Kushina off him and said, "Thank you, your fiery red hair is also very beautiful," Muyu praised while opening the door. Kushina's eyes lit up instantly, and she gave a thumbs up and said, "Okay, you are a very discerning person." She felt that Muyu could talk. When Muyu opened the door, the smoke and dust hidden in the gap also filled the air. Muyu glanced inside, It was not particularly dirty, but it was too dusty because no one had lived there for a long time. Read the error-free version at 69 book bar. 6 equals 9 plus book underscore bar published this novel for the first time. Sorry, I'm afraid I can't entertain you. I have to clean up first. Miyu turned around and said, then we won't bother you. Seeing this, Minato took Kushina back home. Miyu looked at Kushina's departing back and gave an appraisal. Name, Kushina, Chakra, 150,000. Potential, SS, Evaluation, good at sealing techniques, with a huge amount of special chakra that ordinary people can't reach. Miyu could only say that it was enough to make him jealous. As for the chakra, there were question marks in parentheses, which was the first time Miyu saw it. He thought that Kushina must have become the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki, and the Nine-Tails inside had not been appraised, so it was a question mark. Kushina's potential was indeed a bit scary. S potential was the highest potential Miyu had seen so far, but combined with the original work, Miyu guessed that at least one S was brought by the Nine-Tails in the body. Without the Nine-Tails, Kushina would drop 2S potential. Otherwise, with S potential, there would be no need for the Nine-Tails. Kushina would have developed normally and killed people directly. The third generation and Minato would only have 1S. Miyu used the multiple shadow clone technique to create 10 shadow clones, and then asked the clones to start cleaning the house. Miyu once again marveled at Tobirama's genius, who could actually develop such a convenient ninjutsu as shadow clone. After cleaning the house, Miyu bought some daily necessities and put them in. He was not in a hurry to visit Minato's house to exchange feelings. He planned to stay here occasionally and become friends with Minato naturally. He opened the window, and while feeling the evening breeze, he began to enrich the training plan for his disciples. Might Guy and Obito, who did not get the first place in the grade, both need targeted intensive training. As for Shisui, Miyu plans to improve his chakra control ability, which will not only improve his current combat effectiveness but also lay the foundation for learning illusions in the future. Thanks to Moshang Liuxu King Changqiang for the 2000 rewards. Thanks to Free as the Wind number 108 inches for the 100 rewards. Thanks to for the 100 rewards. Thanks to Desd for the 100 rewards. Chapter 24 New training begins. The next day, Miyu went to the Hokage building after class in the morning. Sarutobi Hiruzen was the third Hokage after all, and it was impossible for him to wait for his reply in the school office every day. So Sarutobi Hiruzen told Miyu that if she wanted to be a tutor, she could go to the Hokage building to find him. When Miyu arrived at the Hokage's office, she was stopped for a while, but Miyu had expected it, and she was allowed to go after she said that it was the third Hokage who asked her to come. Miyu knocked on the wooden door of the Hokage's office. Third Hokage, I have thought about it. Miyu pointed out her identity and purpose. It's Hanyu, come in. The voice of the third Hokage came from inside the door. Miyu opened the door and went in, and was surprised to find that not only the third Hokage was inside, but also Minato. Minato was also a little surprised to see Miyu come in. He didn't expect that the new neighbor we met yesterday would meet in the Hokage's office today. This is Mr. Hanyu from our ninja school. He has a very strong teaching ability. Even I can't help but want to ask him to be Asuma's tutor. The third Hokage put down his pipe and introduced with a smile. Then the third generation noticed the expressions of the two people and asked, do you know Minato? Minato nodded and said, we are neighbors. Hanyu's house is next to mine. That's really fate. Hanyu and Minato, you can communicate more. You are both outstanding ninjas in your respective fields. Sarutobi Hiruzen praised. No, I just tried my best, Miyu said modestly. Minato also said modestly and left. He had a good impression of Miyu, but the Hokage's office was not a good place to chat. Miyu had the same idea. The place was not suitable, so he did not communicate too much with Minato. Third generation. I thought about it seriously after I went back. If I arrange my time reasonably, I can spare a few hours to teach Asuma on weekends. Miyu gave his answer. Okay, with Hanyu to teach, I don't have to worry about the growth of Asuma, Sarutobi Hiruzen said with a smile, and his words showed his trust in Miyu. I will try my best to live up to your expectations, Sandaime-sama, and do my best to teach Asuma. Miyu showed a grateful expression, indicating that he would definitely take the tutoring job seriously. The follow-up was the cliched discussion of salary. Sandaime was quite generous and offered a price of 2,000 taels per hour, 8 hours of teaching over 2 days of the weekend, and 1 payment per week. Miyu set the time to start at 1 o'clock in the afternoon and end at 5 o'clock. Today is Friday, and Miyu has no classes in the afternoon, so he went directly to the small river where he usually practices. Shisui was there practicing fire escape with Miyu's shadow clone. Since he won the first place in the whole grade without any pressure in that exam, Shisui followed Miyu's advice and used the shadow clone to go to school, and then came to Miyu to practice during school hours. After Miyu arrived, she cancelled her shadow clone. When Shisui noticed that Miyu's real body had arrived, he also temporarily stopped practicing and greeted Miyu. "Teacher Miyu." Miyu nodded, took out a square towel and handed it to Shisui, smiling. "Take a break and wipe the sweat off your forehead and neck." Shisui thanked him and took the square towel to wipe the sweat off his forehead and neck, and sat down with Miyu under the tree. Miyu gave Shisui an appraisal. Name: Uchiha Shisui. Chakra: 580. Potential: SS. Compared with a month ago, the chakra has improved a lot. On the one hand, it is because the intensity of practice has increased, and on the other hand, Shisui's body is gradually developing, and the growth rate will be faster in the future. What made Miyu a little dissatisfied was that this panel was too simple, and he could only see the chakra and potential. After a break, Miyu said, "Shisui, starting today, the training plan will be changed. We will start practicing the body flash technique and enhance our chakra control ability." Since Shisui was able to gain the reputation of the body flash Shisui during the Third Ninja World War, Miyu felt that it would be okay to teach Shisui the body flash technique first. "Yes." Shisui nodded without raising any objections. After a month of study, he had great confidence in Miyu's teaching ability. The body flash technique is not actually the name of a ninjutsu, but a large category of ninjutsu. Any technique that can achieve the body flash effect can be called the body flash technique. At a higher level, the time-space ninjutsu such as Flying Thunder God is also considered a body flash technique, and the lightning chakra mode that activates the body to increase speed can also be considered a body flash technique. However, Miyu naturally does not know Flying Thunder God and the lightning chakra mode. The body flash technique he has mastered is the most common body flash technique. It is to make the chakra gather in the legs and then explode, strengthening the body to achieve the effect of high-speed movement. The disadvantage is that if it is used too many times, the leg muscles will be fatigued and injured. Although it was just an ordinary D-level taijutsu, it was very practical in combat, and was good for both surprise attacks and retreats. Shisui's talent still did not disappoint Miyu. Although he had not yet opened her Sharingan, his strong talent allowed Shisui to learn the instant body technique directly after Miyu completed a demonstration and explanation. Read the error-free version at 69 book bar. 6=9 plus book bar released this novel for the first time. After the ninja school was over, Might Guy and Obito soon came to the training place. "Don't rush to practice, you two. I have made a special training plan for you for 2 months. Miyu called Might Guy and Obito who were preparing to practice. Hearing Miyu's gentle voice, Obito thought Miyu was going to teach something new again. He looked at Miyu with anticipation and asked, "Teacher Miyu, are you going to teach new powerful ninjutsu? You haven't even mastered the Great Dragon Fire and Great Fireball. What's the point of teaching you new ninjutsu?" Miyu shook her head. "What kind of special training is that?" Hearing that there was no new ninjutsu to learn, Obito was a little disappointed. "The training that will allow you to beat Hyuga Kamen in the next final exam," Miyu said with a smile. "Obito, your taijutsu is too weak. Let alone Hyuga Kamen. Even if you fight with the current Gai can make you unable to use any ninjutsu, so you must strengthen your taijutsu training." Hearing Miyu's words, Obito wanted to say something, but found that he could not refute it, because he lost the battles with Hyuga Kamen and Might Guy just as Miyu said. Although the battles of ninjas sometimes seem to be no different from the bombardment of mages, If you really treat yourself as a turret mage and don't practice taijutsu, this is the fastest way to die on the battlefield. Generally, strong ninjas have more or less taijutsu. As for Gay, what you have to do is to strengthen your strengths. You have to become faster, so fast that even if Hyuga Kamen's Byakugan sees your movements clearly, he won't have time to dodge. It is true that the Byakugan's observation ability is strong, but Might Guy does not need to be faster than the Byakugan's observation. He only needs to be stronger than Hyuga Kamen's reaction. From now on, for every hour of training, you two will have half an hour of actual combat. You can only use taijutsu, not ninjutsu. Ah, you can't use ninjutsu? Obito was dumbfounded. He couldn't win the fight, and he couldn't use ninjutsu. Isn't this just a pure beating? If you don't want to be defeated by Hyuga Kamen's next time, then don't use ninjutsu, Miyu replied. Obito thought about the boasting in front of Nohara Rin, and even though he had foreseen the miserable training life in the future, he had to nod with tears in his eyes. A new round of training began. Miyu wondered if the reward for the increase in disciple strength would be triggered after this special training. It hasn't been triggered once yet, and he didn't know to what extent it would be improved. Chapter 25 Potential needs to be stimulated reasonably. On Saturday morning, Obito, Shisui and the other two began to train according to Miyu's requirements. Obito first learned the basic moves of taijutsu from Miyu. After practicing for an hour, Miyu asked Obito to rest, handed him a bottle of water and wiped his sweat. Obito immediately felt something was wrong. Although Miyu was a good teacher, she would not be so considerate under normal circumstances. It was possible to hand over water, and at most she would provide a towel to wipe sweat. Obito, I think you still have a lot of potential that has not been stimulated. Miyu smiled and covered the bottle of water that Obito had not finished drinking and put it on the ground. No, I think my potential has been completely stimulated by you, teacher. Obito felt that cold sweat broke out on his forehead after wiping the hot sweat off his forehead. You still underestimate yourself too much. Miyu shook his head and said, how about this, when you fight with Gay, if you get hit once, you can do one more question during the break. I think this should be able to fully stimulate your potential. Even if it doesn't work, you can improve your theoretical scores by doing more questions. Teacher, this is not good. If I get hit hundreds of times, I don't care about the questions. I'm afraid you will be tired of asking questions, Obito said as if he was thinking about Miyu. Obito was also forced into a hurry. He was quick-witted and his speaking level improved. For Obito, it would be better to fight passionately with Might Guy than to do questions and papers. It was too tormenting. Obito, you are worried about the teacher's health. I'm glad. Miyu showed a relieved expression. Just when Obito thought he was going to survive, Miyu changed his tone. I guess that you are such a good kid, so I prepared a lot of questions for you in advance. Don't worry about not having questions to do. Miyu took out a stack of test papers with a smile on her face, indicating that there were enough questions. Is it enough? If not, I'll ask the shadow clone to send out more, Miyu asked with a smile. Enough. Obito shook his head and waved his hands frantically. He looked at the stack in Miyu's hand, which was about to fail. It was obviously sunny today, and Miyu's smile was very warm, but Obito just felt a chill rushing from the soles of his feet to his head. Miyu's way was not working, so Obito decided to save the country in a roundabout way. Since he couldn't avoid doing questions, he would do less. Thinking of this, Obito hurriedly winked at Might Guy, indicating that he would add some water later. Might Guy saw Obito's gesture, showed his shining white teeth, smiled easily and gave Obito a thumbs up. "Okay, if you don't hit it at once, then do 50 questions. If you hit it once, you will do one less question, and you can reduce it by 40 questions at most." Miyu continued. Might Guy's face suddenly changed, and he gave Obito a thumbs up again with a serious face. "Do you want to try your best? Don't do such a thing." Obito held his head with both hands and wailed. He could already see a large number of questions coming towards him. For the sake of youth, we must do our best to reduce the number of questions to a minimum. Might Guy felt that he was already ignited. Obito didn't want to do the questions, and he didn't want to do it either. In the following battle, Might Guy punched hard and directly burst out at 120% speed to chase Obito. Obito, who didn't want to do the questions, also had his potential burst out. After being hit more than a dozen times, his steps became much more agile. Miyu looked at the two of them and nodded with satisfaction. Isn't there still a lot of potential that has not been stimulated? When both of them were exhausted, the battle was over. Obito was hit more than 30 times and needed to do more than 30 questions, while Might Guy only needed to do a dozen. Miyu felt that the effect was very good. If they continued to practice like this, maybe in less than 2 months, Hyuga Kamen would not be their opponent. It's a pity that Nohara Rin is not talented. If Nohara Rin was also accepted as a disciple, it would be easy to stimulate Obito, Miyu thought. In order to keep a low profile, he was not very willing to take non-disciples to practice together. In fact, there is a better candidate, that is Kakashi. Nohara Rin can only stimulate Obito alone. If Kakashi is also there, then Obito and Might Guy will be stimulated together. Kakashi is talented enough, but it's a pity that Kakashi is unlikely to become his student because Kakashi was promoted to Chunin 2 years ago. Miyu accompanied them in training until noon, and ate lunch with the three of them. Finally, 2 shadow clones were left behind, and Miyu's real body went to the home of the third Hokage to start tutoring. Maybe because she was still at work, Miyu did not see Sarutobi Hiruzen, but only saw a middle-aged woman with a single ponytail. That is, Sarutobi Hiruzen's wife Sarutobi Biwako. Biwako-sama, Miyu greeted. You are the teacher Hanyu that Hiruzen mentioned. Sarutobi Biwako recalled the appearance described by the third Hokage and asked. Miyu nodded. Asuma is waiting for you in the backyard. Sarutobi Biwako pointed the direction for Miyu, and then reminded. Read the error-free version at 69 book bar. 6 = 9 +_. Asuma is a bit rebellious. Please bear with me, Mr. Hanyu. If he really doesn't want to be disciplined, just tell me. I will, but I have some special skills to deal with rebellious students. Miyu smiled and replied, then walked in the direction pointed by Sarutobi Biwako. When she walked to the backyard, Miyu saw a child of about 9 years old, holding a piece of grass in his mouth, lying against a tree with a rogue look. Miyu gave an appraisal first. Name, Sarutobi Asuma, Chakra, 1100, Potential, A+. Noticing Miyu's arrival, Asuma spit out the grass in his mouth, and without standing up, he asked directly, are you the Hanyu Muayu who is going to teach me? Without waiting for Miyu to answer, Asuma quickly said, I say, if you can't make me surpass the old man, the third Hokage, then just leave. It's boring. Asuma felt that he had to give this tutor a little power and then gain the initiative. Just when Asuma was wondering how Miyu would respond, Miyu shook her head and said, of course not. Then go. Asuma waved his hand and lay down. He didn't believe that Miyu would just leave like that. Okay, I'll leave now and tell Master Biwako that you don't need a tutor. Miyu turned around and prepared to leave. Seeing that Miyu really looked like she was going to leave, Asuma had a question mark in his mind. What kind of a ghost are you? Why don't you play by the rules? Shouldn't you have persuaded him kindly not to make trouble or something like that? Why did he just leave? Hey, don't go yet. Asuma stood up and called Miyu. The teacher was angered and left before he even started teaching. He will definitely be criticized by his mother later. Thanks to Lone Wiyuo for the 100 rewards, thanks to Abe for the 500 rewards, and thanks to Shenang for the 100 rewards. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.